stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk.
Counselor Janik?
Present.
Counselor Edwards?
Present.
Counselor deMedeiros?
Here.
Counselor Burke?
Here.
Counselor Vieira?
Here.
Counselor Perry and Counselor Cook are absent.
Consent agenda. Approval of Town Council minutes, September 13th, 2021, regular session, September 13th, 2021, executive session. Acknowledge receipts of minutes from boards, commissions, committees. Historic Preservation Advisory Board 1, Cemetery Commission 1, Personnel Board 6, Harbor Commission 1. Acknowledge receipts of reports, Treasurer Shoreham, Budget and Revenue Reports, August 2021. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence, visiting nurses, Jennifer W. Fairbank, appreciation for the allocation of $5,000 in community support. Town of Bristol, proclamation declaring October to be Dysautonomia Awareness Month. Town of New Shoreham, resolution in support of Block Island Pride, September 16th through the 19th, 2021. Approval of tax assessor abatements, $11,892, $92.84. Would anybody on the council like to take anything out of this agenda?
Madam President, if we can remove item 4B and 8C1. 4B4, I'm sorry,
Okay.
4B4,
And 8,
C1.
so 4C1.
No, 4B4 and
Yep.
8C1. Is it? No, maybe I'm reading it wrong.
You're reading it
I'm reading the number wrong.
because we're going way down in the agenda.
Yep.
C, 4C1.
Yes.
4C1, okay.
Never, 4.
Budget revenue report.
Treasurer report?
Treasurer report.
Wait a minute, give me a second.
Sure.
Maybe
We
I
all
wrote it
deserve
down
a
wrong.
second tonight.
Never mind, because the other one is 8C, which is not consent, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So 4B, say this to me again, Mike.
Just 4B4.
4B4. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, eliminating 4B.
So moved.
Second.
4B4. Motion's been made by Counselor Edwards, second by Counselor Janik. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Counselor Burke, 4B4.
So, Chris, just a couple questions on here, I guess. They mention, and I didn't underline it, but they mention, oh yeah, at the bottom of the first page, that some large boulders were placed somewhere near Jack's Island in what looked like an attempt to block public access. Can we get more information on where that was, and do we know if it was addressed with whomever may have put those in, or at least moved?
What page are you on?
I'm on page 1 of 4B4, the last paragraph, F.
So,
This was a while ago, this was August
yeah,
2nd.
this is at Jackson, I don't know. So, I'll find out about this.
Okay.
I think we knew about that.
We did cut back some brush significantly, but I'll double check on the boulders, because I think that's what your question is, that there was blocking access.
Then 4B4 may have been taken care of, because this again was August 2nd, but they talked about still having virtual meetings for doing the harbor management plan, which would not be allowed at this point, correct?
So as a subcommittee of the Harbor Commission, they can do that as long as they do as a no?
No?
No.
I saw that in the minutes today too, I was gonna reach out to Bruce Cox, they have
No.
to, they have to all be present.
Okay.
Everything has to be public right now, because I had inquiry from another commission that asked me,
Yeah.
Okay.
and I checked with Mike.
And then the last piece is item G about the Stonebridge docks. And I'm sure this was all with good intent, and I don't have all the background, but it looks like they were having a conversation with a potential contractor. around a project, and that person was going to be giving an estimate, I think, which to me would be a challenge with open bidding process. I could be
Yeah.
reading it wrong, so if we can
So-
get more information on that.
They said this at our private meeting,
Right,
and
so
they
this
did
is-
say it had to be open.
It does
Okay.
need to be open, but there are very limited contractors who can actually
Yeah.
put in the pilings.
Yeah,
So it may wind up being sole source based on the area
Yeah.
and the availability of getting something.
and my concern is having that conversation with the contractor prior to any discussion.
No, we
about
did have that
bidding.
discussion in our
Yeah,
in our
okay,
meeting. It
okay.
had to be, follow the competitive bidding.
Okay,
Yeah, we did address this when I met with them and the liaisons.
okay.
They're also talking about waiting until next year, right? To
Well-
put that in because.
Well, we gave the money.
They are gonna wait till next year because they can't get anybody to put in the other 3 pilings that they need.
But even if they put it in, they would have to take it out again, they said.
That's why they're not gonna.
So, right. But we can hold that money.
So it will be held.
Okay.
That was approved under the municipal.
It's already been allocated, so
Capital
it just
account.
stays in the
Right.
fund.
So I move approval of the item 4B4, acceptance of the Harbor Commission minutes of August 2nd.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Burke, second by Councilor Vieira. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Public comments regarding a council agenda item or other town business. I do have comments received from Sarah Carlton, letter regarding short-term rentals. I just do want to mention that this is on the agenda for later, because we're going to decide what is going to the planning board. So I don't know if we want to wait and get all of this during that discussion or do it now. Do I have any opinions? Because I also have 2 more for short-term rentals.
Yeah.
Right.
So I can get it over with, and then
There's
No.
one more, sign up.
I just want everyone to realize that this is going to the planning board, and then it's going to come back to us for public hearing. So whatever,
So I would make a motion that we move item,
I just have this out.
it's way down. It's,
It's, 8D?
8D? 8D? No,
No.
9,
Nine.
Nine.
9D, to be
I
our
mean,
next item on the
I can
agenda.
wait, but I know there's people here that's waiting to talk, and I don't know if we're going to wait
Yeah,
now.
let's just do it,
Yeah, so our motion is to move that item to now.
Okay. I thought you were motioning to, okay.
No, the other way around.
Do I have a second for that?
Second.
We're moving 9D, Solicitor
Short-term.
Marcello, discussion and possible vote on proposed new Tiverton Code of Ordinance regarding short-term rentals and considering modifications and to forward to the planning board.
I don't know if this one is on the short-term rental though.
Someone just signed up, Mary.
Is it Brzezinski? Yes. Is that on short-term rentals? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with the conversation from Attorney Marcello.
Madam President, you need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks, Joan, for keeping me straight this evening.
Thank you, Madam President. So the first thing I want to address is, in the packet, there was a memo that was written by myself and Nicole, who was here last meeting, about the prior opinion given by the solicitor regarding, I think someone from the audience brought it up, was I aware, or were we aware of a decision of the zoning board or a prior memo that was given about the taxation status and whether or not we could regulate STRs? We looked at his opinion. I forgot how I got the opinion. It was given to me by the clerk, I think. And we looked at it and we wrote what we consider a response to that memo. We basically think that it was an over-reading of the taxation statute. That basically, a city and town cannot prohibit a person from putting their rental on one of those web hosting sites, but doesn't mean you can't regulate where they are. In other words, you can't pass an ordinance saying you can't rent out. You can't pass an ordinance saying that no person who lives in the town of Tiverton shall use the Airbnb website. So that's self-explanatory, so I just wanted to address that, but I thank the person who brought that to my attention, because I was unaware of that, and we gave you, I think, a pretty detailed memo, which is a public record if anyone wants to look at it. The first thing is the marked up copy. Based upon the comments that we made that the council made and the public made last time. They're pretty self-explanatory. We did wind up adding the special districts in the form-based code, which is the pedestrian district and whatnot. We added that to this ordinance. It probably technically should be in the form-based code ordinance, but for ease of reference, we wanted to have you look at it, and we can always codify it in the form-based code when we get to it. But the short-term rentals will be allowed in those districts designated in the form-based code as a special use permit, so they would require a special use permit. We struck the owner occupancy requirement as requested by the council. We kind of merged the nuisances and the events and parties into one section. I'm not sure that this is quite ready to go to the planning board tonight, because I do still want to get some input from the enforcement section regarding the building and zoning official, what they do to inspect. And one last thing that I need the council to consider is, we're requiring everyone to go to the council for we're requiring everyone to go to get a special use permit for short-term rentals. There's a fee associated with the zoning board on that, and I think the fee is, I want to say,
300?
it's 300 or 500, I can't remember, but there's
It's either one or the other. It's a little
it's either
bit
3 or 5, it's a little high.
For like 1 year?
Well, for a normal special use permit.
Permission forever.
Right, so I think that if you're going to have a short-term rental ordinance that requires a special use permit that expires, because ours expires after 1 or 2 years, we should probably have a special fee set for that.
And what do you recommend that fee be, do you know?
Now, I really will leave it up to you. I mean, we have a fee for the application to be $100, which is separate from the fee that we use for the advertising for the special use permit, because the special use permit has to be noticed, abutters need to be notified, and it has to be published in the paper. So the cost should cover that, but of course, it depends about how many people, how many neighbors you might have. You could live,
See, I'm not thinking $300 to $500 is high, though.
Oh, why
So
didn't?
it would be.
No, because we have to notify all the abutters. This could get expensive.
So could you do it so that the applicant has to pay for the notifications? Because if we have an abutter near the villages, we're talking substantial money.
Yes, we are.
yeah, that's how we generally do it. So we generally there's a fee, and then plus there's a butters fee. So we charge two separate, it's not always one. But it's $300?
No,
I think
it's
it's
the-
$230 for the application.
Yep.
Then they have to pay for the advertising, and then they have to pay for recording the decision, which is $39. Then they have to pay for notice it to the
Butters.
abutters, so within 200 feet. So and that's certified mail.
So,
So it could add up.
so recognizing that a special use permit generally would last forever, so it's not such a high cost if you're going for a general special use permit, but this is a special use permit because it only lasts 1 or 2 years. So I don't know if you want people to pay that every 1 or 2 years, it's kind of a hefty fee.
But they still have to notify.
We would still have to
abutters.
notify the abutters, but, so I think the cost should be,
Every couple of years?
yeah, we're making them reapply.
I think that's a hardship.
And that's kind of all the changes I have, then I do
Okay.
want to,
I mean, these people get a lot.
I
When
do.
you,
I do want to, I had not had a chance to have the building official, the zoning official look at this as far as the enforcement and the fire department. I want them to look at this too, so.
So either way, this has to be tabled so that they can look at that.
They can come back to us for
And
final.
then maybe we could go home and think about the special fees, and Chris can talk to the powers to see what he thinks about it.
Okay.
I think it's every 1 to 2 years to charge them, you're saying $230?
Plus 39, plus advertising, which could be 100 and something.
But this
plus
is a business
certified
that's
mail.
making quite a bit of money. So that's what you have to keep in mind too. It's not just, it's a
Yeah, that's-
business.
It's a policy decision that you have
Yeah.
to make. I didn't want to chime
Okay.
in, it's, you have to figure that out.
So is it possible to send it to a homeowners association instead of each individual?
No,
Notice
we have to
required.
send it to each person.
yeah, and there was someone on zoning had to send to the villages every single
Yes,
Yeah, I know, we've done
person.
it.
It was $16,000.
Oh, there was a lot of money, yeah.
That was
Yes.
ridiculous, and it had to be certified, but that's our that's in our ordinances, because the state doesn't require that they be certified.
So we could do a general mail, but,
We
and
have to
then could
change
you,
our-
once
We
they're
have to
licensed,
change the
Change the
ordinance.
ordinance.
once the entity is licensed once, would they,
Yep.
could we grandfather them
No.
from then out?
No.
Because it expires, because that's the whole point, because we want to bring these back, because in case they're a nuisance to the neighborhood, we wanted people
Right, but
to.
we have to figure out a way to fix it, or the town would eat that 16,000. So I
Right.
mean,
Correct.
we have to,
Could we make the application on a more regular basis, but only require the special use permitting once?
That's kind of what I was asking.
Oh, no.
No?
no,
Because once you get the special use permit, it's yours. So it has to expire.
Okay.
The special use permit is what gets you back before the public to have a public
So
hearing.
Let me phrase it differently. Can we, just for this special use permit, like you said, create a specialized special use permit,
Fee, yeah,
Fee.
yes.
but not require the certified mail and only allow for regular mail?
Good question. I have to look into that.
Okay.
State law is correct. State law was changed a while ago to allow first-class mail only, or at the option of the town. Our ordinance is more restrictive than state law, which is allowed, and we have not changed our
I
ordinance
think
to.
there was a reason for that, because at some point abutters were saying they didn't get it, so that's why we decided to do it that way years ago. Because they would come and say that they didn't get
And
the
we would have no proof,
notification.
right.
So that was one of the
But that's another
reasons.
policy. We might be able to carve out exception for these types, but it's up to you. I'll have to look into that, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
okay.
Okay, is that all, Mike?
And then, I'm sorry, then I just put the effective date so no one gets, we're not anywhere near passing this, but if it does pass in final form after advertisement, we'll make it effective January 1st, 2022. So that would start the clock. And that was it. I think and then, I know Councilman Vieira had some issues that we left highlighted as far as if you had an pattern of improper use with 3 citations, what the fine would be, either lose the ability to license or with 7 days of the maximum of the potential revenue generated from the rental. And that, I highlighted that, and it remained highlighted because I wasn't sure if we wanted to leave that in or take it out. That's on page 4.
4 of the marked up copy.
And you also struck out the income requirements.
Oh, yes, that was self-explanatory, and the income requirements, that, the reporting requirements that everyone objected to, which was, I agree, we took that out as well. So in your packet and on the website in the town, you should have both the clean copy, when I say the clean copy, that reflect all these amendments, and then a marked up copy that shows what we struck out and what we added. So trying to be transparent as to how we make these changes as we go along.
Okay,
So, sorry.
no, go ahead.
So just on that last piece, can we, I know it says clean copy, but for the average person, they may not know that this is still a draft. So can we mark this draft still?
Of course.
Just at the end, maybe put plan needs to be set to planning board.
Then a couple other questions, if I may. So on page, I'm looking at these are referencing the marked up copy.
Yep.
So on page 2, subsection 2, we require the ability for immediate response to the police. Should we also include fire?
I don't think so, because the fire will get a call.
Yeah, okay.
If it's a fire emergency or an EMS, police will get called if there's a disturbance,
Okay.
which is the rationale for the police being notified.
Oh, I'm sorry, the other thing that we just reminded me, Mike, the other thing that we changed to is the radius. So an individual residing or a property management company operating within 25 miles of the short-term rental. So I think we had, what the original one had, but 20 miles.
I think it was in town. I
Yeah,
think they had to be in
So
town.
you can be a property management company, or as long as you're within 25 miles of the house or the STR.
And then also in that, page 2, subsection 1, I'm going backwards. Registration application required. Chris, I guess this is more a question for you or the planner to come back to us. If we have everybody starting and expiring all at once, is that a capacity issue?
It will
For
be.
staff.
Depends, I don't know the real number. We were looking at 60 at the time, but we're finding there's more and more. It's probably more like 90 to 100.
Yeah.
So do we want to look at, you might want to think about
We
language to
we may
stagger
look
that.
at staggering.
Okay. And I don't know if we answered this question that I asked before, Mike. Can we put in language that excludes campgrounds clearly,
I thought we did that, didn't
did
we?
we? I
I
don't see
didn't
it.
see it.
I may have missed it.
Exclude
Meaning campgrounds are not permitted, period.
Oh, to have each, well, you have to do it by zone, so where would the campgrounds be in the zone?
Oh,
So
God,
we-
This campgrounds,
We have
this campground.
We have
right here.
existing campgrounds currently
that
that
are
are not permitted.
Yeah.
not permitted.
So we will be sending.
And
zoning
they act
violations.
as short-term rentals.
But can't we write no, campgrounds
yeah.
are not allowed in Tiverton?
We can say,
Like, do we really need to?
no, we can say,
Well,
no
what if
STR
somebody-
shall be, campgrounds registered in Tiverton? Like, how do you become a campground?
You
You
don't,
don't.
it's
There
not
is-
allowed here.
It's not allowable
But there's
use, but
campgrounds all over the place.
But what if somebody met the law to open a campground?
Well, there's no law here in Tiverton.
There's-
There's
it's not
no
allowable
ordinance.
use.
I'm not allowable use.
At all, so that's a zoning violation, so why would you put, it shouldn't be.
It's
well,
still good, but it's
Yeah.
going on.
We're working on it.
I'll think about, let me think
Okay,
about that.
okay.
Obviously, if it's not allowed, it shouldn't be
It's
happening.
not
so,
allowed
yeah.
because they wanted to do a big one off Fish Road a long time ago.
Right.
And that council decided no.
STR, you mean, like a renting?
No,
No,
just
it's
a
campground.
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 And then, I may have missed it, are there penalties for if I don't register with the town?
Well, then you're not licensed.
No,
Right, but what's my penalty?
It's a zoning violation.
Okay,
Yeah, it'll be up.
okay,
Makes them $500 per violation.
Okay.
That's just, that defaults to the general,
okay.
And then we shut them
And
down.
it's 500 per day.
500 per day,
And,
yeah. Up to.
But I think we don't want to make it so difficult for people to abide by the ordinance that they just go underground and not do it. I mean, they do their STR, but they don't have it inspected, or, you know, all of the requirements.
But there's
Right,
requirements
so-
for everything
Right, but
in
we
all
don't,
our ordinances. And
right,
if
but we don't want to make it so difficult that it's a hardship for people. Because I don't want to punish the good ones because there's a couple of bad apples.
I agree, but there's still, the regulations, the good and the bad, both have to adhere to.
So what we're basically trying to do is, those that are running the current business today are inviting people in as an assembly into their facilities. All those entities need to be regulated, or are regulated currently. They're not. So we don't know when people come in, are there smoke detectors, are there carbon monoxide detectors, are there things like that that really should be there when you're inviting people in? And in the group that were here that night that we went through this, very honorable people, very good business, they probably all have those things. I'm not, not saying that they don't. It's the one bad apple that's gonna come back, and we're the ones who are gonna be liable because we're allowing these businesses. So I don't think it's onerous to do that. It's a matter of making it so that it's not so onerous and not so expensive. The issue is the notification issue under if we're gonna go down the road of doing a special use permit.
It also gives an opportunity for the neighbors to chime in, right? So, right now, there's no way of regulating it, and we've had some complaints that, I'm in a residential neighborhood, and my neighbor up the street is renting out every
I
week.
found out this week that there's one going on in my neighborhood, and no idea that was what was going on. But there's an influx now, and people are noticing it.
I think because a lot of people can work from home now,
Mhm.
right? So they can, why not go to Tiverton and have a nice view of the water?
And that's what this is.
So, and this gets to the discussion we had a little bit ago about the fees, the special use permit fees. And I know we say one here, we've talked about two. I'd actually like us to consider longer-term registration and special use, so,
So what page you on?
or special use permit for over a longer term. This, actually,
Yeah,
it's
we
not really.
we left that kind of,
Right, so 3 years, 4 years, I'm not sure what the right mix is. I think
Okay.
2 is probably a little short for most of these folks. But I'd also want to make sure that there's teeth in it, that if something is happening that shouldn't be happening, and that owner is just, giving us the bird all the time, then we get the chance to revoke that license if necessary.
So my notes
That
reflected-
registration.
sorry, my notes reflected, I wasn't sure how to deal with this, but my notes reflected that you wanted to have a short enough period, at least on the first round, and then once they passed the first round test, then they could reapply at the end of the expiration of that time and get maybe a 3-year.
could we say
So like a
that-
2 or 3 year, whatever.
Could we say the second time you apply is like 2 years, and then after that, it extends to 4 to 5 years if there's no violation?
That would work for me.
Without violation.
Without
Without-
violation.
So first year would be 2,
2, and
second
then
year would be
5.
5, okay.
Well,
Can I ask a question?
All right, but you might not agree with me, go ahead.
We could do something where you choose your application. If you want to pay 1 year, you want to pay 2 years, or you want to pay 3 years. And that would kind of
Everybody's
separate
gonna pay 3
everybody.
years, Bill.
You may only want to be in business for 1 more year and not have to pay for 2 or 3 years. So maybe that will stagger the time frame out to where you could pay 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Something to think about, I don't know, and discuss.
Yeah, the motivation for the time frame was to give you guys a little bit of a whip against an errant
Right.
applicant. In other words, so if it's 2 years, you got it for 2 years, and then they come back to you to renew it, and then we're not gonna renew because you've been bad. Not bad, but you've had problems.
Right,
But
if-
then
if-
you-
But then. if
You could
there's
revoke
no-
it too, right?
But if there's been no problems and they're running a really good business and no, and we have to have a public hearing,
Right.
then we can extend it 5 years.
That's up to you.
But then do you have to inspect it again at that time? Because that sounds like a lot,
You only inspected at the time of
just at the,
registration.
at the very beginning.
my only problem
Well,
with
each
some
time-
of
each
this is,
application.
neighborhoods change in 5 years. So you may send letters to all the abutters in the 200-foot radius, and in 5 years, you could have a whole neighborhood change. It's possible.
Right, but if they have any problems and they feel
Well,
that,
why then are we even, the reason we notify abutters is if they have a problem with it, not just the ones in 2000, but if the neighborhood changes, should we not address the people that have moved in and may have an opinion?
see, my problem with this is we have a policy and we're allowing it. So, in 2 years, if people come to us and say, this isn't working, but they have to name violations, they just can't say we don't like it. They have to name why this isn't working.
Would have to be inconsistent with the neighborhood.
Right,
for
and
whatever
it has to
reason.
be, it has to be consistent with the ordinance, what is allowed. So, then we go 5 years. Anyone who feels they're violating can come into Chris's office, Jones' office, or the zoning board, and put in a complaint, and we have to hear it,
Yeah.
if they all feel.
Correct.
So, you just can't, a whole neighborhood changes, and they say, well, we don't like this to be rented. Well, the town has an ordinance, and this is what's allowed there.
Yeah, would
Do
you
you
heard
see
it,
what-
would it be heard in municipal court, wouldn't be heard here, but the complaint
Well-
would be, yeah, whatever.
Well-
You'd be cited and you would.
And using that same logic, I'm looking at accessory building as a special use permit, permitted use on the
What
waterfront.
page are you on?
It's on page 1, actually, I'm looking at page 1 of the clean copy. It's just the grid from the zoning ordinance.
Yeah.
And that first one, above where we're putting short-term rentals, talks about accessory buildings. And if I happen to live on the waterfront, I can only have it if I have a special use permit. So let's say I live on the waterfront, I go through the process, I get the permit today. I build it, it's there. 3 or 4 of my neighbors change over the next 5 years. It's still there. They don't get a say to tell me to take it down.
You're kind of grandfathered in.
Right.
Well, it's not even grandfathered, it is an allowable use.
Right.
No, I get that, but so your new neighbors can't change your form
No,
of business, I mean,
no.
But your new-
be like telling CVS they can't be there no more.
But your new neighbors are moving into an established
Exactly.
business, so
exactly,
that's,
exactly.
you know. they-
Right.
If they know.
If they know.
If
Do
they
their
know,
research.
although I would, I would hope that the realtor that I'm working with is going to be honest. And maybe I do my due diligence
they
and
will
talk
be.
to a few neighbors and tell me about this neighborhood, what's going on around
Well,
here?
I would think at some point we would be publishing the list of short-term rentals approved.
True.
Well, it's advertised, right now, you can look up your neighborhood and see if there's a short-term rental there.
Well, no,
On
you
one of
can't.
the websites.
I wanted the website.
On one of the
You,
websites.
you actually have
Websites.
to, in some of those websites, you actually have to book the rental. You don't get the
I went
address.
into one of the websites and wrote short-term rentals, Tiverton, Rhode Island, and I couldn't believe what.
No,
you
you'll get,
So,
I get the
when you-
general idea, but like if you, like, there was one I pointed out that was a campground to Chris. I could see generally where this was because I knew the area, but if I'm coming in, moving in from out of state, I'm not necessarily gonna know that.
yeah, but these short-term rentals have addresses.
no, not always.
usually.
They have
What?
both, they have points, and when you have to go through the whole process to actually get the address you're going
Right, and
to.
you can get it though. 'cause
You have to book you have to
Yeah,
book.
but you gotta book the thing, and then
No.
send
So a
it.
lot of them are like that. You
Yeah.
can't get, yeah. But you get the map, it shows
I
you,
just put short-term
You just
rentals
don't-
Tiverton, I was shocked when I saw.
yeah,
it.
it'll come up with like bullets, like a map.
Yeah.
But in order to get the details, you actually have to, most of them have to look through. But,
So, as this is not ready for prime time, I think we should probably, it's up to you, Council President, if you want to hear from the people who signed up.
Oh, yeah.
Get
Have
more
one last
comments,
piece.
and then we'll come back with the changes. I do want to refer this to the fire, police, zoning enforcement officer with their comments. Hopefully by the next meeting, we'll get a final draft of this. And then once that final, will go to the planning board, they'll have a hearing, they will review it to make sure that it's consistent with zoning. They have to make certain findings. And then it'll come back to us for a full, real public hearing, which we can make comments. and
This is
then-
gonna be a long
It's
process.
not gonna happen overnight. We want to get it right.
the planning board could have a public hearing too if they want.
They want to.
That's up to them if they want to do that.
Yeah,
My last piece?
go ahead.
I'd still like us to consider, and maybe I missed it again, off-street parking requirement.
Oh, that was.
Or something that at least gives perhaps the fire or police some role in saying, well, this street, to have on-street parking, it's really not helpful, whatever the case might be.
You know, I,
So they're gonna have to have it for winter regulations anyhow, because we do have parking things. So that's something I can talk to both the Public Works and the Police Department about.
okay, I read this, but I don't remember this. No, I don't remember this. So if I have a house that has 4 bedrooms, and I have a septic for 4 bedrooms like my house does, can you rent this house for 10 people or 20 people? Is there some kind of restrictions as far as that's concerned? Because I know houses that where they're putting down cellar 2 beds where you pull out. I mean, these are residents that have 4 bedrooms, and on a weekly basis, there's 15 people staying there.
So I think that part of the fire inspection would be to set the maximum occupancy.
But
of the
how do we
building.
regulate that?
Well, that's the problem. We really don't. And
That's my
honestly,
problem.
you don't. And that's kind of like.
And I'm wondering if the DEM should get involved in this.
So I would assume that we would get the DEM records based on what the,
Because my house
Well-
has 3 bedrooms, my
Well-
septic is
well-
4 though.
we're gonna have multiple issues because we now have sewering issues.
Right,
So some of those houses are not gonna have limitations. And then you're gonna have those that have ISDS systems
Right.
that have limitations based on what DM has approved.
but that's not really the town council's problem. You bought a house, you're renting.
So
and
you would,
that's it.
your rental would be limited to what your ISDS would be.
Should we put that here?
I think we should. As part of the, well, maybe we do as part of the inspection
And-
process.
and-
Well, if
the way you
don't, there's no way to control it. So you need to stipulate like, okay, 2 people per
I do
bedroom.
know houses that are meant for a family of 6, and there's 20 people staying there. Or, well, I'm probably exaggerating, 10 to 15 people staying there.
And a neighbor would complain.
how
Hey, I got 20
Yeah, it
kids,
would
I got
be-
20 people living over here, and they'll call the police, so that's the way that it would get
That's a way to do
regulated.
it, too.
Right,
But
yeah.
I'm just worried about the septics in these areas too, because if you have 20 people or 10 people staying there for a whole week, and then 15 more come in, sooner or later, there's gonna be a problem here.
Well, the inspection sheet says size of ISDS sewage system expressed as a maximum number of bedrooms, which is what DEM state does.
I'm just not
But
sure
there's
that that's
nothing to
clear.
say how many people you can have in each, in the bedrooms.
Because if you have a house that's made for a family of 6, and every week you're renting it to 10 people,
Hard to regulate, that's the problem.
that's, yeah, but it's a concern of some people.
But
It
but
is.
if you have it written in there, and then, like Bill said, you get complaints, then you have something to back you.
Can we put limits to the, no, to the amount?
Without it,
Approved
it's too
occupancy.
arbitrary.
You can't really do that, because this is just something
That
that
makes
I've
sense.
thought about.
I have to look at, I'm sorry, I have to look at if other towns do it that don't have sewers. I mean, there's gotta be others, but I don't know.
Because
I mean,
we're
it's really-
having problems all over town with failed systems.
Oh, yeah.
Wastewater's on it, so now we're gonna have something down the north end. I'm gonna say the north end, because that's where some of them are failing. And we have an occupancy of 6 people, and every week they have 10 people. That's gonna fail, that's gonna drive down into the river, we're gonna, like, this
Yeah, no, I get
gets.
it.
Or
No-
other
Or
properties.
other
Yeah, no-
properties.
I guess I would push back a little bit, no different than if you were, I know this is not probably realistic, but if you have a house with 4 bedrooms and between the holiday season, you decide to have a party
That's different.
every night.
That's not weekly. That's not weekly rentals.
It could be, right? You could have a party
Every Christmas, well,
every night, every
Party
we're in Christmas holiday week, you ever have, you don't have people over, and I mean,
right, but then in February,
Right.
you wouldn't.
so the way that we thought we regulated that is to have it owner occupied, right? So because the owner really
Yeah.
takes a interest in their property, but we took out the owner
No,
occupied
I-
requirement out. So it's a good, we can put something in, I just have a question about how we can enforce it.
I think it's a concern because we're having all these problems with failed systems. And so these houses, and maybe that might be part of the regulation, is your septic approved and upgraded as suggested or whatever. 'Cause
Show
some of
proof
these
of
people
occupancy,
are
yeah.
not doing that.
Yeah, I don't know, well, I could put something in it, we can take a look at it.
Because I'm worried about the way, the water.
No, it's a
and all
good
that.
concern, it's just hard to regulate, but I get it.
There was also a suggestion that one of the owners of one of the Airbnbs or STRs had said and I forget, I think they may have said it in the hearing, but also in one of the correspondence we received of, can we charge a higher fee for non-owner occupied? To help still keep it as local as possible, but still allow those who have a place that they want to rent out that they're not living in at all, or barely.
I guess we could, but that means we were gonna be putting in back the owner occupied requirement.
Yeah,
That's a, we right took that out.
Well, you put in owner occupied fee X, non-owner occupied
How to
Y.
enforce that, that's the other issue, right?
the enforcement of this whole thing is a nightmare
It
anyway.
is.
Let's
It
realize
is.
that. It's
I
very
mean,
difficult.
I mean, that's the whole thing that started this. You are, in my opinion, you're literally running a business out of residential zones. You're running a business out of people's houses. Internet has, made this happen. And you can do it, and people are mobile now, but there's a reason why we zone areas of the land residential, because you're supposed to be living there. It's different, this is not, again, this is short-term rentals. This is not buying a house and saying I'm gonna rent it for 3 months. This
Yeah,
is for
and-
every week. But again, right now we have no regulation, and we don't have any idea of how many people are actually doing it. We've got
We
really,
can and keep in mind, we can actually say no short-term rentals.
we could.
We can actually do that if this becomes way too complicated and we don't feel we can enforce it.
That is an option too. To do nothing or say none, and, I mean, we enforced it with the gentleman up the street, right here.
Right, and then I think people need to realize that we can change this ordinance and say, okay, it's not working out.
Right.
Too many complaints, no short-term rentals. And that might make people comply to this more, maybe. I doubt it, I'm not unrealistic.
It's not an easy issue, but
Okay,
we're forced to do something.
Public comment, please.
yeah, I'm gonna do it. So there's 2 letters that we've already received that are actually on the agenda for public comment. Sarah Carlton, is Sarah here? I can read it if I can find it. It's right here.
I have it.
I have it, I pulled it up. To whom it may concern, please consider how a Tiverton ordinance on short-term rentals could be drafted to allow for long-time summer cottage owners in Tiverton who are not wealthy and support the increasing cost of taxes by renting out their cottage in the summer, but don't occupy the house 260 days of the year. Taxes are high in Tiverton, particularly for properties on the coast, for which assessments have gone way up. Second home owners find summer renters who are typically families or older couples who want to enjoy a week by the shore and who have not been a problem for neighbors. They don't do party house rentals because they love their houses and don't want them wrecked by renters. A new ordinance on short-term rentals is clearly needed. Besides allowing long-term Tiverton taxpayers to legally continue common practice, it can address the problem of a party house that has been driven by new short-term rental platforms by Airbnb. These services allow entrepreneurs to buy houses solely to make money for short-term rentals who don't care about the neighbors. Several provisions in the current draft of the ordinance directly addresses the party house problem, and we hope these provisions will be carefully crafted. But inserting a provision about short-term rentals requiring a homeowner to occupy a house 260 days of the year does not recognize the situation of some long-term Tiverton homeowners and taxpayers. Sincerely, Sarah Carlton. And the next one is from Deborah Gee.
That's
That's
different,
not-
different topic.
Oh, that's not part of this.
But there are two other ones that came in
Oh,
later.
then we should have, okay.
I don't know who they named it,
Well, I have them all.
so they're just generic. One is to the Tiverton Town Council.
Yeah, this one isn't even signed.
No, neither one of these is signed.
There's a handwritten one as well.
Yeah, I have a
It's not
problem
signed.
with people not signing their names, but I'll read it. I live in a real neighborhood with a number of homes that are used as short-term rentals, some full-time all year round. Those short-term rentals do not belong. They are businesses pure and simple, just like motel or boarding houses. Strangers come and go instead of neighbors who have invested in the neighborhood. We have transients. Please regulate these businesses. They should be prohibited in residential neighborhoods. A requirement that the owner occupy the residence for 260 days still allows short-term rentals all summer long. Far too much. Mine summer. Dear Town Council, a business is a business is a business. Once a man sold used cars out of his house on Main Road. The Town Council closed him down. Yet, you cannot operate a commercial business in the front yard of your residence. Illegal conversion of residence to de facto hotel rooms mean business, operating in a fake hotel. Why do they call them vacation rentals? Vacation rentals changes neighborhoods. You live next to strangers, not neighbors. Thank you for keeping our neighborhoods safe. Okay, and then we have people that signed up. Barbara Martin, brief comment on short-term rental ordinance. And she wrote brief, that's not me that said brief. I'm not restricted, Barbara.
No, I said that because I thought it was just gonna be the comment period.
Okay,
I have, oh, I can sit there?
of course you can, Bob.
Yeah, okay, so these are handouts, just so you can understand what I'm talking about. I'll wait until you get them. And I base this on the first draft. And it doesn't seem like you've changed. Here, let me pull this a little closer. I don't think you've changed what I'm going to address. Okay. I've printed copies for you of portions of the proposed short-term rental ordinance and sections of Tiverton's Code of Ordinance. You know what, you can probably hear me better with this damn thing off.
Yeah, take it off.
That deal with licenses for entertainment and one-day liquor license. So I'll be referring to this. So, the language in the proposed short-term rental ordinance inadvertently creates the possibility that short-term rentals could become event venues on a weekly basis. And so this is the short-term rental, just so you know, I've highlighted it. There are two sections there. So Section 4, special use permits for short-term rentals, events and parties, that's number 5. And what it says is, a short-term rental shall not be used to host an event, party, or other amusement except as may be expressly approved by the town by way of a license or permit pursuant to this Code of Ordinances. Currently, our Code of Ordinances allows individuals to get an entertainment license not more than twice a year. And so you will see that kind of down here. I highlighted that. When a resident comes to the town council for an entertainment license to host a family wedding or other family gathering, the neighbors are agreeable. These are rare occurrences that happen only a few times a year in all of Tiverton. However, once the short-term rentals come forward for entertainment licenses, it is possible, because of the wording of our Code of Ordinances, which is vague, that a renter, as an individual, could request an entertainment license. There could be as many as one event per weekend per short-term rental property. And just think about how that would change the quality of life for Tiverton's residents. To prevent this from happening, the language of the proposed short-term rental ordinance should be changed to read, So go back up to events and parties. A short-term rental shall not be used to host an event, party, or other amusement, and strike any reference to the town ordinances. And then on the section 7, under advertisement, it mentions in C that any notice of events or parties when you are advertising on whatever platform by the owner of the short-term rental must also be expressly approved by the town of Tiverton pursuant of this code of ordinances. I think C should be struck. So Tiverton, as we know, is a beautiful town. It's been discovered as a great vacation spot. We can expect many more short-term rental properties in the future. Right now, the majority of Tiverton short-term rentals are owned either by Tiverton or nearby community owners. But that's not always going to be the case. Real estate companies that specialize in short-term rentals will buy Tiverton properties and try to maximize their investment. And we have to be ready with an ordinance, with short-term rental ordinance that will protect Tiverton and its citizens in the future. This was mentioned at one town council meeting. There is a group called Picasa. They're going into expensive neighborhoods, buying a home, and doing it as an LLC, splitting it into eighths and sharing, selling those 8 shares to other people for very high money, like $600,000. I foresee that this could happen in some of our larger homes where you would have a realty company come in and do the same thing. Do we want that? Do we want that in town? I mean, we have a wonderful way of life here. We have a rural way of life. Do we want it to become event central? And I think that could happen. So that is my story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.
Diane Morash. I want to say hi to Mr. Morash, who was my teacher in high school. And I haven't, yeah, he's also a distant cousin of mine, but I haven't seen him in years. Look at me today, I had you in science, yeah.
I did too.
So did Deb, that's right.
And we were both science majors in college.
Yeah, think of that, we're both science majors. You did good. Okay, good, I'm sorry, Diane.
No problem, no problem. You should be up here. So the more I listen to this discussion, the more complicated it seems to get, in my opinion. And
Oh, we realize that.
I'm like, God, really? I don't know if you have the number of, you're saying short-term rentals that we have in this town. Do you have the number of how many we have? No, you don't know.
It's over 60 probably, right?
My best guess right now is somewhere between 90 and 120.
Yeah, I'm just being a little less.
Between 90 and 120.
But that's my best guess.
Yes, okay.
He's-
How many bad apple complaints have you received?
So the only bad apple complaints we received is what started this beginning.
Although we did receive a couple of summers ago.
That's right.
A couple of summers ago,
So
we received a few.
we really haven't received, I'm sorry, we really haven't received a lot of complaints. What we did receive was when COVID started, all the venues had shut down, people were renting out houses to have events because they weren't regulated. So we had a number of events that we got confronted with early on. And then we've had a few minor events with some neighbor complaints about people having parties at their house, fireworks, those kind of things. You know, the normal run-of-the-mill kind of things that you get from your neighbors every day anyhow. So they were not a lot of major complaints. The biggest complaints we had were the major parties that were being held at venues that we had no idea that they were going And the houses were just, they were being rented for exorbitant amounts of money, and they were making a lot of, they were completely disturbing their neighbors by having 50, 60 cars in the neighborhood that didn't belong there. So we did have some early on. They've subsided since we got our fingers into it a little bit. But it's now morphed into something that the community is allowing these businesses to operate without any control. And whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, I think the town has an obligation to at least ensure if people are allowing people to stay at their properties for profit, that they have the decency to at least have appropriate smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, the things that need to protect the people. If you were to, when I go on vacation, I'm kind of expecting that when I rent something, that I'm gonna be safe when I go there. And we're kind of expecting the same thing.
Which is, should be expected. So you have a couple of complaints, and my question is, well, first of all, this ordinance that you're writing up, will it be made public?
Yes.
So people can see it? and-
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So this is a process. What happens now is we're drafting something. There was actually a draft already done. It's been revised a couple of times now. It's at its initial stages of the council saying, okay, this is something we would like to explore, but we need more information. It needs to go to the planning board for vetting. They need to look at it in review of our comprehensive plan and some other municipal documents on how the town operates. They're to make findings of fact to make sure that this is appropriate. It will then come back to the town council, and there will be full public hearings where anybody in the community can come out and weigh in, but all that will be published beforehand so that you can see it, you can digest it, you can review it, you can make notes, you can then come to the public hearing and make comment.
Okay. I guess I just had a simple
I'm gonna go hug him at the end.
idea that if you went to a home or the owner who you knew owned the property and you gave him a citation, and then you go back the second time and you warn them again, and if you went back a third time, you fine them. I mean,
So is,
That's what the ordinance is about, though.
so are you suggesting that we shouldn't allow these kinds of entities as business at all?
No, definitely not. I'm saying that if you have a complaint once from one property, you just go and say, okay, we've got a complaint here, you guys have to cut it out, knock it off, whatever. If you go back the second time, you give him another citation, or you tell them,
So what happens right now is when we get a complaint, we go to the property, it's the person who's leasing the property. It's not the owner.
but don't you have a
We don't
record?
always know where the owner is.
You don't.
So you can
No, you
own
don't.
property and live in multiple different places. You don't have to tell us where you're living. You're just a taxpayer in this town and you pay your taxes.
Okay.
That's why
So
we need
that's
the
kind of where the problem is when this started originally, we didn't know how to contact the owner. We sent them notice by mail, but you don't always get a reply.
Okay, I understand that.
And then also keep in mind, it's not allowed right now. You cannot do this in a residential area. So going in there and saying you need to be better, we have the ability to say you can't do it. So that's why we're doing the ordinance, so that
Right.
we have some guidelines instead of, because we could just shut them down, because it's not allowed.
But there are some
Right.
businesses who are doing everything they should be doing.
Yes.
They're very good business people. They're very good to their constituents who come in and rent their properties. They make sure that not troublemakers for their neighbors. They're very quiet. So there are legitimate reasons why these should be in place. So it's a balancing issue as to how do we do this without trying to harm the people who are actually doing it without issue to those that we really haven't got our hands around yet, that are not really following the rules, because we've never set rules.
So I have a unique situation because the home we live in is over 100 years old. And I have some pictures here of, I think I'm grandfathered in. That
Oh, there's no
possible?
grandfathers, no.
I am grandfathered in. It's the gables. And I have pictures of the original signs that they had out. And it was the Gables afternoon tea. And it had the gables, comfortable rooms, and delicious food. So,
That was a bed and breakfast. This is different.
this wasn't a bed and breakfast. It was a tea house, but they just
Okay, all right.
Yeah, right. So anyway.
So where is that house?
excuse
It's
me?
not still in existence as far as that type of entity, is it?
No.
What?
You just live in that house now? You
Oh,
don't?
yeah, it's a family house.
Okay.
It's a family house. That's what it is. And we have like a small in-law apartment that people come, family come, people, visiting us, stay there. Once in a while, we can do a short-term rental. You remember Tom Brady?
Yep.
He was there with his dad and brother.
Oh, cool.
They stayed there. So it's been going on for a long time. And,
Oh, so now I get what the grandfather did is. Okay.
yeah. I mean, it's been.
But it's
good
owner
fun.
occupied.
Uh-huh, yes, oh, yeah, it's owner occupied. But, I think that was one of my concerns, was why can't you just contact the people? But you can't, because you don't know who owns it.
Some of them, we just don't know who they are.
No.
We know who they are, we just don't know how to get hold of them.
We could go to your house and right away know, yeah, we can
You'd
tell
find
you.
us.
Right, but some of these people, they live out of town, we don't have their current addresses, their current phone
Well, they're
numbers.
corporations.
And
It's a
another-
corporation.
How, could you put a limit on how many establishments you have like that? Like,
No.
I don't know, you can't
No.
do that.
No.
All right,
Thank you.
those are my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will.
And the next person, I'm just gonna call you Mary Z. I'm not,
Zebrzinski.
Zebrzinski.
Zebrzinski. Did I get it close? Zebrzinski? No. No? Newski.
That's why I called you Mary Z.
No, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's.
A lot of the questions have been answered that I was worried or concerned about. I do have a house on the water that is a short-term rent, that I rent out short-term rental, and I've been doing it since I moved here in 1982 to pay the taxes, because the taxes, when I first came, were really exorbitant for this, for the town. And I would leave the house, but I would get out of the house and I would take my 2 kids and we'd stay with friends while I rented it out for, usually it would be maybe 2 weeks. I'd rent it out 2 weeks or maybe a week. And that's how I paid the taxes. So I think that there is some consideration about small businesses. I've always had leases. In the lease, it says you cannot have an event, you cannot have a giant party, you can't. I also own the property down at the bottom of the hill, Lawton Avenue, and one time, out of all those years, since 1982, I had one crazy person who rented the house and didn't tell me that she planned on having a reunion. And that's what she did. I drove by the house and saw all these cars there, and so I walked in and I kicked her out. I said, it says you cannot have an event. Oh, we're just having a few people. No, you're not. Get these cars out. I rented it to 2 people, not 50, and she left. And that was the end of it. But
You're the person we're talking about that's doing it the right way, that isn't bothering neighbors, we're not getting complaints. And just what you said is what we're trying to make sure people do, is stop events like that.
So what I was concerned about is that we have first of all, we didn't know about this meeting. I read about it in the Cotta Times. I didn't know there was a group trying to get together to make an ordinance. And it's scary when you think that all this stuff that you've been doing for so long is going to go away to pay your taxes. See what I
Well,
mean?
that's why we're writing the ordinance, so what you're doing is legal. And it sounds like you're following what we want you to
Well, I
follow.
haven't, you see, I thought that originally, what happened was, Gina Raimondo came in and said that they had to do something, they wanted to collect taxes on short-term rentals. So, and I have a permit to collect taxes, and I haven't registered with the state.
Yep.
The application fee is $10, you pay it every year.
Right.
And then every month, if I have a short-term rental, I have to send 7% to the state.
You sound like you're doing exactly what you should be.
I have to collect 8% actually, but 1% goes to the town. And what I was curious about is, don't you have a record of my 1% that I would be sending to the town?
So do you send it directly to the town, or do you send it to the
No, I
state?
send it to the state.
Yeah.
They must
So,
send it
so
to you.
we do get a check from the state. The issue is I don't have a breakdown as to who they all are.
Who the people are, I see. 'Cause
So
I'm just
that
saying,
we're
just
working
get
on
the
now.
list that you have, but, and then you know everybody who has it. But I'm sure there are a lot of people who aren't collecting the tax, but I know
Yeah, and
this-
we're not here about the tax. We're here about making sure that those businesses like you, who are pre-existing, and others who want to do it, who may not have it yet, have the ability to do it. Because right now, it's not permitted in town. Even though you've been doing it, it's really not
It's
permitted
really
in
not
town.
permitted. At any point, we could have just told you you can't do that. So now we're trying to make it permittable,
Yeah.
but we're setting rules on it so that
Yes, I understand.
everyone's comfortable.
I understand, definitely the idea of having a giant party, when even listed on, originally we did, Airbnb didn't exist years ago, so we had HomeAway. And we always put on no parties, no reunions, no blah, blah, blah. And I only rent to a certain amount of people. I like usually only to rent to a couple from usually far away.
Right.
I don't
Well,
rent to local people because they want to have a party and invite their friends. But people from New York don't know anybody in Tiverton, so they have a lovely little vacation.
Well, how this came to my attention was a couple of summers ago. There's a house that was rented to 20-somethings.
Yes, I understand.
Right on the water, and every weekend, there were kids drunk out on canoes. These
Oh
people
my
were
God.
so nervous. There was
Liability.
parties going on, and they asked me if this was legal. And that's how it came to my attention, because these 20-somethings, even though they weren't having a party, there was 10 of them, and you can imagine
Oh,
the
yeah.
party they were having every night. And they were out on the water, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
just wanted to know, if, like, this isn't safe. Like, why is Tiverton allowing this?
And I would also say, you said you read about this in the Cotta Times?
I read about the one article, but I
Right,
didn't.
so,
That's how I got here.
right. And I would say
Does
that
it
that
say-
article did the whole process a disservice, because the person who wrote it did not attend the meeting where we had probably 30 short-term rental owners come to us,
Yeah, I would've
talk to
come to
us.
that meeting if
And
I
we
had known.
and we changed our original draft to what the solicitor spoke of tonight, and we're going to make additional changes to it.
That's. I
So
feel-
This is a long process, and believe me,
Okay,
your type of business is not something we're trying to stifle. We fully understand what you're going through, why you do what you do, and we're trying to make it so that it's workable for everybody so that we can continue on with these.
And I just want to
She
say
was
that I
just one,
don't
right?
necessarily think the person has to live, I certainly don't live in my house. There wouldn't be enough room for all of us.
We took that
No, we did strike that.
We took that out. That's no longer part of the
Oh, it's no.
That's no longer part of the ordinance.
Okay,
That was after we heard the public at the last meeting, so they did make changes.
okay. So when is your next meeting?
So,
This one probably won't be
Stay
on
tuned.
for 2 meeting cycles anyway, I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Not next meeting, but then the meeting after.
Right, so
Because I want to hear
that's-
back from the zoning people.
That would be the last meet, the earliest will be the last meeting in October, which is October 25th? 25th. It may be after, it may not be that meeting, might be another meeting, but again, whatever
the
we come up,
agendas.
so for everybody, whenever we finally, the council feels comfortable with a draft, we will then send it to the planning board, and Chris had talked about this, the plan, by state law, the planning board, when we send them a zoning ordinance draft, they have 45 days to give us back a report that looks at how does this fit in or not fit into the comprehensive plan. There's like 14, I think, points that they have to come back and talk to us about in their report. From whenever the date, so let's say we send them something on October 25th, so they have 45 days from then. We have 65 days from that point to do a public hearing from that October 25th date if we use that date. At that public hearing, and the planning board can have their own public hearing, that's up to them. But we get that report back. At that public hearing, we may decide, we're hearing enough comments, we want to make some more changes. We could extend that public hearing to another date. so we can make some additional changes. And if I'm wrong, the solicitor's going to throw things at me. And then at some point, we'll have a final version that we'll take a vote on.
I see, I understand. I do want to just say one more comment, that a lot of people, they spend a lot of money. People come,
No, we
they
understand that.
have a lot of money, they spend a lot of money. I don't even have to clean my stove, because no one eats in.
Got a lot of to-go boxes, right?
Thank you very much.
I think you should
Thank you.
consider that.
We're gonna hire you to train the rest of them.
Well, not the rest. We had, I mean, everybody who was here last time, I think, are very
Very good
responsible Airbnb, or I should say, short-term rental operators. The ones who probably didn't show up are the ones that we may have concerns about.
So, and we're not the only community going through this. There-
No, I know.
There are a lot of
My-
communities going
my
through the
daughter
same,
Owns a house near North
Yeah.
Conway. North Conway's going through the whole thing. However, I know Nantucket is going through the same thing, but they did a feasibility study, and they realized how much revenue they were
Oh,
gonna
no,
lose.
we agree with you.
They weren't going to be able to pay their, their taxes were not gonna be able to stay the same. They were gonna have to go way up, because of all the rentals and all the houses and all the people who don't live on Nantucket that own houses there. So, and then there was one woman in Little Compton who wrote a wonderful article, and she sent it to New Hampshire, saying how we love summer rentals, because they come and they don't use their houses all winter long, and they pay our taxes. So we can have good schools, and we can send our kids wherever we want to. Our high school children, we can send them to the best high school, and we can have a wonderful town. Because these people come in every summer, and they're lovely, and they're polite, and they spend money at our store. And I just want you to make sure that you consider the amount of people who are paying, keeping the little stores at Four Corners going.
Absolutely.
Because none of us can afford $400 for a pillow. Thank
No
you.
comment.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll come back to this October 25th?
Sure.
If not sooner, but generally October 25th. And the administrator and I talked again tonight, so he's going to make sure it gets up. We're going to
Up on
have
the
a
website.
section on our website just about this, so you can see the various versions of it and where we're at, some of the letters that we got, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So that'll be up there. Moving on to public hearings. Approval of proposed, item 6A, advertised public hearing, approval of proposed amendment to Tiverton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles. Am I missing one? Oh, I'm sorry, we thought that
Even
was.
though it's out of order.
Yeah, no, it's actually back in order, sorry. We
But
did have
we had another public
yeah,
comment.
that's what, Denise had thought it was related to the last topic, and it wasn't. So this is a public comment from Deborah Gee in opposition of Tiverton Heights development to the council members dated September 11th, 2021. On Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, the Tiverton Planning Board will be reviewing the proposed Tiverton Heights 135.9 acre development. The plan had run into difficulty because of the significant impact of wetland changes raised by Save the Bay, and DEM had put the plan on hold while it was being reviewed. I understand that the developers are back. This plan includes 275 residential units located between Main Road, Fish Road, and Sousa Road. This high-density use is not in keeping with the town's comprehensive plan, and concerns have been raised about the impact on traffic, schools, water pressure, flooding/drainage, loss of open space, and environmental concerns. I continue to be apprehensive about projects going forward that impact the north end of Tiverton. I live on Evans Avenue and would like to feel that my concerns about the negative impact of allowing these developers to move forward would be addressed. In the past, I have attended and spoken against each Carpianato proposal. I'm not alone in my concerns and would like our town representatives to reject this and any other plan that changes our comprehensive plan and zoning so that an outside developer can destroy our small town quality of life. Deborah Gee.
Thank you. Public hearing, approval of proposed amendments to Tiverton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 28, 78, oh my God. Traffic and vehicles, section 78-71, parking prohibited at all times on certain streets regarding portions of Hooper and Connecticut. Chris, is this yours? Is there?
Didn't we do this last meeting, and this is just for the final version of it?
Yeah.
No, this is for the no parking signs on the bottom of Bay Street on
Okay.
Hooper and Connecticut.
So,
This was the Pat Agia.
that's
Oh,
right.
yes, you talked to me
Request.
about this the other
That's
night,
right.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
People fishing.
So I'm trying to find that.
So, I believe we did have the police department take a look at it, and the Public Works, and I think they are in agreement with this change.
It was recommended by
Yeah, correct, it was recommended by the chief.
We got so out of order that I'm just totally.
So it puts the no
Do we have
parking,
backup to this? stuff?
6A?
Yeah, I can't find 6A.
Yes, right up to that letter.
you can have my
Denise, you
version,
can.
you can have my version. if you want.
Here's Bill's.
Okay. Did you find yours?
I'll find it, don't worry.
Okay. So, any comments from the council?
Nope.
Okay, and there's certain streets listed.
Yes,
Um,
for all this.
Okay, I'd like to open this up for public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to comment on this subject? Anyone here that would like to comment on this subject? All right, I'm closing it. I'd like to entertain a motion. Thanks, Bill.
You want to give it back? Move approval of the amendment to Tiverton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Section 78-71, Parking Prohibited at all times on certain streets regarding portions of Hooper and Canonicus Street as presented.
Second?
I have a motion by Councilor Burke, seconded by Councilor Vieira. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Recreation Committee requests approval of special event permit and waive permit fees for the trunk or treat event on Saturday, 23rd, 2021, with the rain date of October 24th, 2021, from 3 p.m. Location to be determined.
So,
We can't do that. You have to tell us the location.
Aye.
But I want to
There's a
start
reason
this
for it.
off asking, I think it's the nurse in me, okay? You have Tiverton school kids in school right now with masks.
Yes.
We don't want to promote an event where COVID can be spread. Has the school department been asked about this? And I did talk to some of the school department about this. At the time, they were like, well, we don't know what October's gonna bring. I just have a concern about this. We're seeing increased COVID. You got all these kids together, and I've been there. I've had my car open. It's over 200 kids from all over, not just Tiverton. And I just am hesitant to approve this. I'll be really honest with you.
Sure. I hope I can ease some of your concerns this evening. I am a registered pharmacist. I'm part of the medical team, and I've been working in a hospital for the last 18 years. Definitely seeing more frontline what's going on with COVID. Devastating illness, it's a pandemic. We do have an effective vaccine for anyone ages 12 and up, and that's everyone's individual right and decision on whether or not they want to take that step to protect themselves. I'll agree with you, Councilor deMedeiros, that many of the kids coming through are going to be under 12 and aren't even eligible to get vaccines yet. We had talked about it a bit at our Recreation Committee meeting earlier, and what we'd like to propose is a mask mandate, which is what we're doing in the schools. So it would be taking it a step further. I don't think there's too many places mandating masks in an outdoor setting, but I think that given the volume of children we've seen come through and how closely clustered they come through, that would be a reasonable idea to take that extra precaution. And again, I'll give a little plug for vaccination here. The concern with children getting COVID is not that children have dire consequences of COVID, it's that children will bring that COVID back to the adults. And again, another plug for the vaccine. It's really, it's imperative that the adults take that level of precaution and make decisions on whether or not to vaccinate themselves or distance themselves from people who aren't vaccinated. The little kids wear masks, social distance, et cetera. I don't think we're going to see COVID itself go away for a very long time, and we would like to bring back this event. In years past, we've had the event published or advertised in a much broader net than we want to do this year. We really are going to try to keep our focus to inviting and including the social media groups that really focus around Tiverton. It doesn't mean that we're going to enforce, we're not going to check addresses or licenses or, do any sort of a resident check when they arrive, but we're going to be mindful and conscientious of how many people we invite to the event.
And where are you having this?
So to be determined is because we had waited quite a long time. There was apparently some confusion over the new online process to request the schools, but we will be having it at Tiverton High School with connection to Tiverton Middle School and Ranger as well. So we're looking to use the 3 schools for one to host the event and then the other 2 potentially for overflow parking. The middle school and the high school connect through that back road. There's that connector road between the 2 of them. And we've given some thought to how we could utilize that and help. We also realize that Ranger is right there, and if you walk through the area of the football field, you can connect the 2 schools that way as well. As you've mentioned, we've done this event several times. For several years, it was at the Tiverton Library, and one of the concerns there is that the parking was so limited that people were parking on Bulgamarsh Road, which is not well lit and a high. It was scary. It was not going to lie. It's scary to have people and little kids walking on foot along Bulgamarsh Road.
So is this a drive-through, like a walk-through kind of thing?
It's walk-through. Yep, it'll be walk-through. And then 2 years ago, we did the event at Tiverton Middle School, hoping to get further away, but we found that there was still some people parking a little bit further out and closer to Bulgamarsh. So we keep trying to drive our way further in and further away from Bulgamarsh, and that's where the Tiverton High School comes in for us this year.
Do you have to notify abutters of this?
No, high school, it's on the school property.
All right, I'm just asking, because in the high school, there's a lot of...
You're talking about the high school parking lot? Is that where you would do it?
Correct. It would be in the high school parking lot. So we would use a portion of the parking lot for the trunks to set up and decorate and hand out candy, and we would use parts of the parking lot for the people who are coming to the event to park and get out of their cars. But it's not a drive-through. It would definitely be similar to what we've done in years past, where people will park and then walk through from trunk to trunk.
You're probably going to have enough cars to fill that whole parking lot, though.
I'm not sure if we're going to have enough trunks to fill the whole parking lot. What you're thinking of is years past where we had quite a few trunks. But the parking lot is considerable, and we've...
Because what I remember...
Big event.
I've done this 2 or 3 times with my truck open.
At the library.
There's a lot of cars.
But I think they're gonna use the senior parking lot, and that senior parking lot at the high school is huge, much bigger than the library.
Right, so where are they going to park? They're going to park in the administration parking.
So pending approval of the council tonight, we're going to get to work deciding really where is the best place to put the cars that are setting up trunks versus the cars that are going to be parking. And we want to keep in mind where kids would be walking to cross from one area to the other and keep them safe. There's really 2 gray areas at the high school that could work. The far end up against the fence toward the football field. So that's a nice place to have, in a dead-end fashion, put all of the trunks there and then have everybody walk over to that area. But equally, when you first pull into that senior parking lot area, there's a small section that's already somewhat sectioned off, and it probably would fit the amount of cars I would expect us to have based on historical attendance. So in that one little area, we could potentially section that off as well. Ultimately, the people who are willing to come and set up trunks are still coming in. We don't have a final count, and we won't until we get a little bit closer. But those are 2 areas that the Recreation Committee is contemplating and has contemplated in the past.
And you're going to have a mask mandate?
I'd like to get a mask mandate for people that are coming through as the treaters, if you will. And I'd like to propose that the people who are setting up trunks can pass on the mask mandate if they prove evidence of vaccination, simply because many of the people setting up a trunk have some sort of a theme and a thing that they'd like to do, and a mask would be an additional barrier there.
Because I don't know if anyone's ever been to this before. they're all on top of each other.
Of course.
All on top of each other. There's nowhere to even walk.
And again, I'd like to just point out that in years past, we had a very aggressive approach on a social media campaign that include towns that were upwards of 15 to 20 miles away from Tiverton. And we're just going to focus our social media advertising on Tiverton.
But that may or may not work.
Especially if we're the only one doing it.
Right, that may or may not work. I mean, there was a lot of people there was a lot of Forever people, there was a lot of Westport, friends that I knew in Westport came
Right.
over. So if they hear Tiverton's having this event, you may not,
Would you limit the number of trunks?
that wouldn't matter.
I don't think
Still
that's,
not.
I think that
Still not
the
kids.
trunks have typically been in the vicinity of 30 to 35. It's not an enormous amount of trunks.
I think that the way they're doing this with the high school, they're really gonna aim to spread it out.
They're not gonna be able to spread it out enough, though.
Yeah, but if they only have 15 vehicles, and you have a portion
only
of that,
have 15
or
vehicles.
whatever it may be, if it's 15, 20, whatever it may be, you can spread that out in a safe kind of manner in the senior parking lot.
Bill, have you ever been in one of these?
Been
The
to plenty of
line-
them.
The line goes all the way out. It's not the cars, it's the amount of kids in line.
Correct, and that's,
It's not,
yep, and that's the group we would be looking to mask.
Yeah,
Again,
it's-
I think,
it's quite something if you've ever been to one of these. I mean, I went through so much candy, we had to send people out to get more, and we had bought a lot of candy. It's really, and there's no social distancing, I don't care how you do it, there's not gonna be social distancing. If they wear masks, as a nurse, I'm worried about this, it's getting worse. By end of October, it could be even worse. I don't know, I don't feel comfortable with this, to tell you the truth.
yeah. I will say, working in healthcare, I can give you lots of information about COVID and the patients that are coming to the hospitals. The vaccine's effective. We are still seeing the majority of patients who are admitted to hospitals are unvaccinated. We're not seeing children admitted to hospitals. We're seeing the older adults and the adults with comorbid conditions. But as far as masking the children and letting them come through, I really am confident that we can do that in a safe fashion. That's how we choose to send them to schools, indoors with masks. This is proposing outdoors with masks.
But there's social distancing in schools, they're monitoring it
But are the kids wearing masks outside
in playgrounds.
in the
No,
playground?
they're not,
No.
they're not in the football games, they're not at the local playgrounds, they're not being monitored, we don't regulate it at our playgrounds. And I think we're giving them an avenue to where they're not having private parties inside of homes. We're giving these type of block party where they don't have to go to their friend's house to have an indoor party. They can be outside where the air is fresh, circulated.
I don't wanna cancel Halloween. I don't wanna, that'll be the headlines tomorrow, Denise canceled Halloween, because I've canceled Christmas before apparently. But, I'm just worried about it, and we are seeing vaccinated people come in. So I am a little worried about it, and the schools are being so careful about this, and they're getting a lot of flack about it. I just don't want to promote this I like other people's opinions, you could convince me otherwise.
Well, when you say senior parking, is it that whole parking lot?
But no, they're talking to the right, you want it, so when you come in, the right is where you're gonna put the cars.
So the high school, we will use all of the parking. We're
That
going to put the
whole
trunks
area?
in one section, but we
Well,
will
what
use all of
section
the
then?
parking.
Yeah, but I thought you were talking about the right side, like in front of the music rooms, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I do. So when you,
Okay, is that where you're gonna put the cars?
we were looking at that area or potentially up against the fence, those two possible areas.
Where the senior parking.
Well, senior
Correct.
parking, the
But
tennis
where's this-
courts.
That whole big, when you come in off North Brayton,
The
and you
left
go
one.
left, that whole big parking lot,
That's not what she's talking about.
That's one of
that,
them, that's one, they could use
they
that.
separate that for seniors and
No,
non-seniors?
that's,
No,
they
that's,
call it
that's the
senior
senior,
parking
that's the
nowadays.
sophomores if you're,
But it's everybody's, that big,
Right,
Yeah.
right, but they're
Student
not
parking.
using that entire spot.
they could, if they
You could
needed
use-
to.
but you
That's not
could.
what she's proposing.
Well-
We could, but we don't want to take the entire high school parking lot
There'll be no
and
parking.
put one car every 6 spaces. Typically at these events, we have spaced the cars every other, which would definitely get you 6 feet from trunk to trunk. We've always set it up that way, largely because the people setting up the trunks put on these great, really nice displays, and we don't put the cars side by side. So we've already done the math on that, and putting cars every other space. If you want to describe the senior parking as where the seniors have painted those beautiful parking spaces, between there and there is a fence toward the football stands. It would be up toward that fence is one area where we could put the cars every
along the
other.
fence?
Along that fence, we would be putting cars every other, and it may be a couple of rows depending upon how many cars, but we would put them we'd space the cars every other.
Are you limiting, you keep saying depending, is there a limit on the amount of cars you are gonna put there?
We can
Or
we
you
can
just-
absolutely limit it.
No, I'm just wondering,
Sure.
or is it whoever signs up?
I don't think it would be a good idea for us to fill the parking lot with trunks when the purpose of going there is to have more parking and get people off the street. So if we ran into a significant increase from what we've seen in years past, it's certainly very reasonable for us to put a limit. Historically, we've seen about 30 to 35 trunks. And that includes things like the fire department, the police department. A lot of area businesses bring their bigger vehicles, but 30 to 35 is what we usually see.
So you've already discussed this with the school department. They've
No, put an
they've
application
okayed
in.
using their facility.
The school department has approved the facility use request form for trunk or treat for
Superintendent
those.
did, though. The superintendent approved it, that office.
It was,
School committee hasn't weighed in on this.
not the school committee, no, it was a use request from the superintendent's office.
And the school doesn't get approved by the school.
No, so the school committee has not weighed one way or the other. And your plan is to use Ranger for overflow parking
So they walk up.
and have them walk through the football field to get to the main event?
You can't do
It was
that.
something that was discussed, I think feasibility of that is low.
Yeah.
but we
because you have to
reserved
go
the
on
building.
street. To get to Ranger from the high school, you have to go on the street. There's no passage.
There's no paved path,
There's
but
no
you can
paved
definitely
path,
walk through.
right. Because the
There's a
foot,
field.
but
Isn't there a gate at each end?
there's all kinds of, yeah, brush, and not only
Okay.
that, but I think there's
Then they
irrigation.
can walk the road.
There's retention ponds.
There's, yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah.
no different than walking the neighborhood.
No, they'd have to walk the road.
Correct.
That's what they'd
But
have
again, if we got into overflow of parking, which is of course a separate issue from COVID and the reason we're going to the high school, but if we have to have cars parked on the street, I'm more comfortable with them parked on North Brayton than I am with them parked on Bilgamarsh.
Now, who's gonna stop them from parking on Boogamash, though? Like, people aren't gonna know they can park at the middle school and walk over. There's a lot
that's
of
how
people
you-
that don't even
that's-
know there's a passage that way.
But if that's how you advertise it.
That's the way you're gonna.
Correct. It would
Put
come
signage.
down to the advertising, and I think the high school is pretty far in from Bilgamarsh compared to both the middle school and the, obviously, the library. So,
Yeah, but you know how it is.
if a few people are parking on Bilgamarsh, I don't have a method to
Yeah, no,
stop
I'm
them,
just asking.
but it'll certainly not be needed the way it's been needed with the other venues. So,
Well,
I also work in a hospital. I hear all of it. But I think that if we're masking these kids who are not being masked outside at school,
if,
and,
yeah,
but if that's what the criteria is, they need to be masked at this event as they're going through.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that was true.
See, I would mask the adults too.
Me too, I would mask the adults
I would
too.
mask everybody.
Everybody.
They're on school property, and
Yeah,
the
that's
school,
another thing.
the
You
school-
cannot be on school property without a mask.
you can. So I've been to several of the sporting events, and as long as you're outside.
Oh,
inside.
Correct, it's inside. If you're inside the building, you need to wear a mask.
Right.
And again, my only thought on masks is we were going to do this beautiful pirate ship, and you don't look quite as much like a fantastic little pirate with a mask on, but if that's a limitation that the committee thinks is a
Yeah,
Deal
I would do
breaker.
adults too, to tell you the
I
truth,
would
but
too, yeah.
everybody there wears masks. There's too many. I'm don't know. What is everyone, what is, Mike? do you-
I would move approval of it and let the organizers determine closer to the date whether or not a mask mandate is necessary based on how things are looking at that point in time. I understand all the concerns, and I have many of them, but it is an outdoor event. And, you know, I think the commission is doing their due diligence in figuring out ways to make it as workable as possible. And I don't think it's our role to worry about, can they get from point A to point B? I think they have to figure out how to do that safely. I think my concern, like others, is how do we do the best job to reduce the possibility of transmission, knowing that we're never going to completely eliminate it.
Yeah. Anyone else? I would hesitate voting unless we know at least the kids are being masked.
Well, they're, like you said, it's school property and it's a requirement that you be masked.
But not
Except
outside.
Inside.
There's no
Inside.
reason why we can't say, this is great, but we want everybody to be masked. We can't
And-
keep on canceling everything forever.
No, I don't want to cancel it.
Correct,
Or-
and
I just
or
want it to be
restricting
safe.
it overly.
And you
I don't wanna
canceled it last
cancel it.
year,
correct,
didn't you?
we canceled it last year. You know, indoor events are happening. They're happening under a couple of different scenarios. I've been to events where it's mask required indoor, and we're talking indoor auditoriums where people are literally side by side. The concept of catching COVID is, or the risk of catching COVID is highest if you spend more than 15 minutes within 6 feet of a person who's not masked. So there's indoor events going on. You know, the world is really trying to safely reopen. The vaccine is helping that a lot. There are events and venues that will allow people to come in without masks as long as they show that they're vaccinated. There's other venues that say vaccinated or not, you need to wear a mask. These are all typically indoor events. We want to hold an outdoor event. I really do hate to cancel it for a second year in a row. If we're waiting until COVID is gone, we're not going to be able to bring trunk or treat back.
And
So
I'm not waiting till COVID, don't get me wrong. But I'm not waiting till COVID's gone, but we're not sure it's not going to be as bad as it was.
If
That's
we
my
wait until
problem.
COVID is gone, these kids are gonna be
These
in
kids
high
will-
school.
Right, these kids will be in high school, and I agree.
correct.
Have you contacted the Department of Health at all?
No, we have not contacted the Department of
If you
Public
do
Health.
that this week, I'm pretty sure you're gonna get approval from them,
Okay.
because we did this with Sean for
Yeah.
his event, which is the fellow who's gonna have the
Oh.
the Halloween scare thing behind his house.
Oh, is he still doing that?
He's doing it. It's,
He
he
has
went
to come
through,
to us, though.
no, he doesn't.
He always did.
No, we didn't.
Yes,
He only came last year because of COVID.
No, he can't.
And when he moved from Stafford Road to his new location. But prior to that, he's had it for like 17 years
Right,
without coming to the
but
council.
There was near misses there, where people almost got hit by cars. So the police wanted us to talk about his.
He needs the permit, but according to Chapter 51, it comes through the town clerk, and the town clerk approves.
And he's consulted with the police already.
Okay, whatever.
No, but it's, all I'm saying is he went through Department of Health and they gave him pretty much carte blanche to do what he needed, but obviously you want them to know.
I'm so sick of this. Whatever you guys want. So did you make a motion?
I think Michael's with a motion.
No, I'm not. Oh, I thought you did.
You did.
No, I did.
You did, yes.
No, I
I'm
said-
gonna
I
put
thought I
this in
said
the
I
form
would
of a
support.
motion.
I don't remember that, but anyway, I will. That we approve the Recreation Commission's request for trunk or treat on the school committee properties, and highly recommend that they consider a mask mandate as appropriate based on input from the Department of Health,
And waive the permit fee.
Yes.
and waive the permit fee.
Second? Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry.
Oh,
3 to 9, 3 PM to 9 PM. Is that when it's gonna start, at 3 PM to 9?
That's set up.
Or is that,
No, usually starts around 6 PM. We request the permit because starting at 3 is when the trucks come in to start setting up. So the event itself is usually about a 2-hour event from about 6 to 8.
thank you.
Peter, what?
No, I didn't know if you needed raising again for this next one.
Oh, we might. Peter M. Kelly, Pete's Ice Cream. This is funner. Go ahead.
How's it going? Oh, thanks.
Get comfortable.
I saw your ice cream truck out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so, request approval of expansion of town recreation area and schedule through November 2021 for Peddler Hawker's license on mobile ice cream truck. So we don't have a food truck
Correct.
ordinance yet. We're working on it.
Yes.
And we've granted this to you before. And did you do it last year too?
This is my first year in town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any questions from the council?
Is it state, Mike, didn't you tell us at one point that food trucks were allowed by right?
Yes, so the state, are you licensed by the state? So the state has,
Yes, sir.
state has a licensing requirement that requires cities and towns to adopt their own ordinance by 2 years ago, I believe. I don't think we ever did that, and so as a default, we're using the Hawkers and Peddlers license, so, but we're working on, yeah, so.
And you've been doing this all summer?
I was just gonna say, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So he's been doing it all summer?
Yes.
So where
30
do you
years
park
in
at
other
Grinnell's
towns.
Beach?
Well, more than that, actually. 34 years.
At Grinnell's Beach, you park on the street, or do you go into the parking lot?
I go into the parking lot, yeah.
So is this just an extension for this year?
It's just to go through November 21st.
I'm asking about the town farm and Booger Marsh playground is what the issue was. And I went in front of the recreation department, and they approved it, and they wanted me to come here and get final approval.
So
And it's-
they did approve it, but it was subject to you reaching out to Little League and,
Yes, sir, yeah. which,
just so that there was a little dispute a little while ago about competition when there are concessions. It is what it is, but
Right, well, right now, it's kind of a needed thing, because they don't have the concession for the fall ball league. And,
I'm sure
I
they'll
heard
open-
from the soccer league, and they open only till about noon, which I don't usually start or go by there until after that, so.
but I think it's great you're staying out till November.
Oh, yeah, I've done that before.
Can you,
So also, on the application, it says the hours of 10:30 a.m. to 8 p.m., but the rec commission signed off 10 a.m., so a half hour earlier, but only until 6:30 p.m.
Well, I
Well,
put those is that?
Probably because it's gonna be dark, that, you're not gonna be going around the neighborhoods in the dark, are you?
Oh, I'm not sure when it's gonna get dark out, it keeps getting earlier. I just don't know when some of these soccer games end,
Okay.
so that's why I put that, the latest.
Usually
soccer.
not till 7 o'clock.
I seen one, at like start at 4:35, and it could, I guess in October, it could get a little dark at the end of the game.
The
But-
soccer season will end by the beginning of November,
Yeah.
so that'll be around the time when we change the clocks also.
Yeah, that's usually, but, I said that the earlier part, I don't know, I go for the playground during the week sometimes, and there's not even games going there, but there's young kids, like
Yep.
to see the truck, and it's a good thing for them.
It's pretty active now. There's a new playground there, so,
Yeah, it's nice,
yeah.
yeah.
So is it your intention to only be at Grinnell's Beach, Bogland, Booger Marsh, and Town
Well, I
Farm?
know, but they just speak.
Or
Well,
is
that's,
it your intention, as the application says, to prowl the town?
well, I think I was approved to go around town already.
Yes.
Yeah, but.
Right, this is just an expansion. He was already
Yeah.
approved to go on the roads of Tiverton and to go into Grinnell's and Fogland. This is extending it to the 2 recreation areas.
That's right. That's correct, thank you.
And the months, right?
And the schedule.
All right, now, Bill's been dying to say something, but over on this side, they're speaking too much. Go ahead, Bill. He had his hand ready.
I just have a question for you. How, conducting business at Grinnell's, can you explain to me the difference between this gentleman and other businesses who want to run businesses out of Grinnell's, on Grinnell's property?
So we're talking about like the cycle thing, the salt thing?
Where, if he wants to park where the cycle people were, how does he
Well,
do that?
he can't get his truck up there, I don't think, but
It's different though,
Okay.
because yeah, it's a different license, and Dell's does it too. I know
Right.
McRae's had their Dell's truck there. This is different than using the beach.
His state license allows him to go,
Yeah.
his state license allows him to go to these
Yeah.
places where a private business wants to put a cycling on there would not be allowed. So it's, this is a mobile business, it's transitory.
But is he prohibiting the use of Grinnell's Beach by residents who want to?
No.
no.
That wasn't the issue, and that wasn't the issue. That was, the issue was whether or not you were gonna allow
The residents are buying
resident,
ice cream,
right.
they're enjoying the beach.
and then moving on,
Yeah,
Different-
I
different
move
issue.
on.
Yeah,
I don't stay there
right.
long. I just go in there and see
Yeah.
if somebody wants ice cream, and then
So
after then, I serve the people that want some, I move along.
Yeah, the other thing was more of an event. This is a traveling show, so to speak.
Well, I know he won't be there for 3 hours sitting at Grinnell's. I was just thinking that he is prohibiting the use of Grinnell's for any period of time. And that was my only concern, because that's
He's
been
just
broached by
going-
the council here.
He's providing a service for the constituents there,
Right.
so that's what he's licensed for.
He's going in and driving back out,
That's all I do.
and kids are buying in, then he leaves. He's not stationary there.
No.
He's
Well,
not
you could,
taking
you
a
could be
pavilion.
stationary for an hour.
I,
You could be,
But how
you
is
could
that-
be if that was,
But how is that prohibiting the use of the beach?
if people wanted to use any portion of the beach that he's
Well, he's in the park.
parking, you know what I'm saying?
So I think the difference here is that if I wanted to host a yoga class,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
I'm going to need a portion of the beach or where the sails are. And nobody else is going to be able to use that spot
Right.
while I'm there. This is not keeping anybody from recreating. It's providing an opportunity for them to get some refreshments while they're at that location. I don't think I certainly did not see this as an issue when we were talking about the other entity.
And Grinnell's actually has 2 spaces set up for,
We do. Up at the
spaces for like food trucks, for vendors,
Special
which is
times.
what he's doing. He's providing that service.
Okay.
And he's licensed by the town to provide that service across town and the 2 beaches. He's just expanding it now to the recreation.
And no one wants to take a yoga class from me, okay?
I do yoga with you.
Can't get that image out now. Thanks. Now you're gonna
No,
keep
I'm
me up
not
all
gonna
night long.
Just
Thank you.
ruined my night.
No, I'm not gonna be able to concentrate. I'm
So can we
sorry.
make a motion?
Yeah, make a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve Mr. Kelly's request to, what do we add, Provomarsh and Town Farm to his area of business, I guess?
Yes.
And for the
His
following
license.
dates, September 21st and November 21st, 2021.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, we're on to appointments and resignations in 8A is Harbor Commission. I'd like to bring forward 9E as the discussion that this all has to do with the Harbor Commission, so I think we're gonna end up talking about this anyway, so I'd like to bring it up. I'll make the motion if someone will second it.
Second.
Motion been made in second. All those in favor?
What's the motion?
The motion is to bring 9E
I'm
up
sorry.
with 8A in combination. Now, so Harbor Commission, and we talked about this last time, is a 9-member board with 2-year terms and 4 vacancies. Now, Joan, we were looking into this, so there is 4 vacancies. Okay. The charter, and that's what this is all about, 9E, is the charter said one of these 4 need to be a planning board member. One of the 9. Well, one of these 4 vacancies, because there's nobody, okay. So actually, there's only 3 vacancies from the outside that we can bring in. And the planning board is, we have told, Joan, did you notify the planning board we need a member?
They have it on tomorrow's
Okay,
agenda.
Perfect. So the planning board's gonna give us recommendations.
Sorry, at their next meeting.
Okay. So 2 of these terms are expiring 7/15/2021, and 2 of these expire 7/15/2022. Is there any way to figure out which one's the planning board? Because that's what I was thinking. There isn't.
It's the council's choice.
Okay.
You fill in that spot.
Okay, which I think it should be the 2-year term, because we might not be able to get another planning board member to do it. And one of the 9, now, the ordinance says one of the 9 has to be a town council member. No,
It does say that.
yes, the
But-
ordinance says,
let me-
but the charter,
Yeah,
the charter does not. This gets very complicated.
But also, there's a little more than, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I got a call from Assistant Solicitor Edwards on Saturday. And,
Oh, I know it, yeah.
and he correctly reminded me, there's a charter provision that prevents a town council member from serving on any
Right,
board and commission.
right,
So
right.
that section of the ordinance
Has to go.
has to go. So there is no requirement, or there cannot be a requirement that a council member be on the charter commission, so that, the harbor commission, so that is now up. My memo was wrong in that respect.
Okay, so, thank you, Assistant Solicitor Edwards. So, well, I think we talked about this at the agenda meeting though, but I'm not sure. So, in reality, there's only 3 vacancies. And this includes the resignations we recently got.
It includes the resignation of, on 8C, we have Jason Theron
Mhm.
from the Harbor Commission has resigned.
Okay. So there's 3 vacancies and 4 people.
Except one person withdrew.
No, I'm looking at 4. Am I wrong? Charles, Andrew, Clint, and Bill.
And
Andrew withdrew his request for reappointment.
It doesn't say that here, but,
Reappointment request withdrawn.
okay.
Andrew Sundberg with her.
Oh, that's right, he did. Okay, so there's Charles Lawrence,
3 for 3.
Clint Clemens, and Bill. Now, Mr. Lawrence, are you here?
No.
No. Okay, so Mr. Lawrence, his address is 108 Long Pasture Way. He's actually living in a house there.
Yes.
Okay,
And he's an elector.
okay. Clint,
He's here.
he's here.
He's here.
You live on 541 Sapawa,
451.
451. But is there an actual house you live in there?
I live at 107 High Hill Road currently.
Okay. Now, you're an elector,
Yes.
and your address is High Hill Road on your registration?
I'm staying at a relative's house at 107 High Hill. I was there from September of last year, except for 2 months this summer when I lived on that road. And so I'm back at the relative's house.
Okay, all right. Because I've been getting some calls about this. I just want to make that clear out loud. That you live on High Hill Road right now, you're a Tiverton resident, you're an elector. You're building a house on the other address. Because I went by there and I said, there's no way he could possibly live here. So,
You're a little wet, but not
I wasn't quite sure. So, it's beautiful property though, and it's gonna be a beautiful house, I bet you. All right, so, and then Bill Thompson,
He's here.
he's here. There you are. Okay,
And then you have the issue of the preferences, this is set forth in the.
yes, so let's talk about that, Mike. But when we had a meeting, Chris and I and Donna and Bill had a meeting with the Harbor Commission's chair and vice chair. Chris, didn't he explain to us that these were all filled?
Yes.
Because we talked about this with him.
Yes, we did.
So all the preferences were been made?
That's what he
Okay.
said at the time. We had a separate meeting with him so that we could kind of air out some issues that didn't need to be aired out here and get all our ducks in a row. So, and it went very, very well, by the way. It was very, very productive. But we did discuss this, and didn't he? We discussed that one needed to be a commercial fisherman, and he named the person. And there was one other that we discussed.
Commercial fisherman was Jason Claremont, who just resigned. The commercial fisherman probably that he was representing at that meeting was Jason Claremont, who just resigned. I'm gonna say that.
Yeah, you're probably right.
It is,
But at that meeting, he did have that filled.
He wasn't, at that point, at that meeting on 9/11,
He had a.
Jason hadn't, I don't think Jason had thought of resigning, and Andy Sundberg wasn't planning on resigning. He was in the process of rectifying his situation at that meeting.
Now, Mike, this says preference.
Well, the charter says preference, but the ordinance says mandatory,
I think we need to,
so.
because it might be hard to get this.
I understand.
And there might be people in town that,
I understand, but the ordinance says mandatory.
so,
You can be more restrictive than what the charter requires, except for the planning board. The planning board must be on, and
and a
then,
town council can't.
and town council cannot be on. So then we have these preferences, and I would prefer that the ordinance mirror the charter, but it doesn't, so.
So the preferences are per the charter.
No, the preferences per the charter, the
And the-
mandatory says must be.
I think we need to change the ordinance to comply with the charter in a way. Well, especially with the
Yes,
town council.
Yes, that needs to be stricken.
And when we
It
were
is strict.
talking to Bruce, it's hard to restrict people who are truly interested and not be able to find a commercial
Right.
fisherman.
Right.
As long as these people have interest in being here, that's what we actually want.
We still
But-
have one spot, 2 spots.
3 spots.
We have 3 spots.
No, but if we appoint it tonight,
It'd be only 2.
if we could appoint tonight based
Well,
on.
it depends, because I'm not really understanding this. Shall be given to the special interest of recreational boaters, you need a recreational boater,
that's
which
Dave
we
Stewart,
have.
that's Dave Stewart.
Recreational fishermen, which
Could be
is probably
anybody,
any of them.
Any of 'em.
Commercial fishermen,
That's the one we're lacking, I think, at the moment.
conservationist, we have one of those.
That would probably
That
be
would probably
Bruce.
be- that would-
What does that mean, though?
Or,
What is
or,
a
What-
chip?
what-
or Chip.
A chip, but what does conservationist really mean?
I mean, I think many people here would say they're conservationists.
Well, here, he's saying he's a conservationist, there you go, okay.
Does he want to be on the
Will you be a
planning board?
conservationist for us too? What if you go out and catch a fish and sell it and we'd be all set? Riparian property owners,
That's Jeb Hagan is a riparian owner.
absolutely,
That's it. Those are-
that's it. So we're having the problem with the commercial fishermen.
Well, but, wait a minute, so there's how many members?
9.
9. And there are 7 required members.
Yep.
But even if you filled 2 seats, there's still 1 seat left,
For
right?
the commercial fishermen?
Am I accurate, or we have 3 people? No,
3.
we have 3 openings, not 4? See, that
We have 4.
resignation, we have 4 openings. Okay,
One has to be a planning board
Okay.
member.
Okay,
so
see,
that
that
makes-
resignation confused me too.
okay.
So, right, so we actually, Mike, we have 3 openings. That's what we have, because we actually have 4, but we can't fill
You
them.
have 4 openings.
But we can't fill it.
One is designated for a planning board
Planning.
member.
So, I think, I like the wording, that the charter says preference. So it's people that are interested in the ocean and the harbor, and I don't think we really have to find ourselves a commercial fisherman, because we might not be able to, quite frankly. We can barely get anybody to join anything.
So I oversee the boards and commissions. I'm a commercial fisherman.
I've had kind of a rough day at work, you can tell, yeah, so,
You have a license.
are you a
I fished-
commercial fisherman?
Yes, I am, and I fished.
We want to join this? You can't.
I can, I don't live in town.
Alexa.
So the first thing we have to do is say that we'd like Mike to redraft the ordinance to match the charter. Bring it
So
back.
moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. So a motion's been made and seconded. So now the charter, when Mike reads it, the ordinance will mirror the charter.
Do I vote?
All those in favor? So,
Unanimous.
now, there's 3 openings and 3 people.
Three openings, three
Okay.
people.
Can we,
Like to entertain motions.
to waive our,
No, you don't have to waive it anymore because we've interviewed, we've done all of what the policies
Yep.
say. Yeah, we did all the interviews and everything.
No, that's not what I was asking.
So, I'd like to
So-
entertain a motion.
I would move that we reappoint Charles Lawrence to a term to expire 7/15/2023, and appoint Clint Clemens to a term to expire,
Joan?
4 have to expire, 1 time 5, and the other according to the ordinance, right? So 5 and 4.
So we have 2 expiring on
No more than 5.
2021 and 2 2022. So why did we request a reappointment to expire 2023?
an appointment to expire 2023?
Because there's 2 expiring,
Two.
7/15/2021, so that term would go to 2023.
Okay.
And that would have been Charles, and that would have been Andrew, but Andrew withdrew. So
Okay.
you have 1 term expiring 7/15/21, so that would make the term expire 7/15/2023.
So
And
that's
then you-
Charles first. We're reappointing Charles to one of
Yep.
those. Okay. Or the motion is reappointing Charles to one of
And-
those.
And then you have an option for
Clint or
3
Bill?
and 4 to either have it expire, you could have 1 expire on the 23, and then you could have another expire on the 22, or you can have both expire on the 22.
22, and the planning board expired
expired
on
on
the
the
23.
23.
So the choice is yours.
I think to be fair,
So,
Clint
yeah.
and Bill for a year.
I would,
For now.
so to finish the motion, to appoint Clint Clemens from 451 C Pallet, or 107 High Hill right now, to a term to expire 7/15/2022, and then Bill Thompson, 362 C Pallet, to a term to expire 7/15/2022.
And as you can see, this was very confusing. I think we fixed this now.
I thought you wanted the planning board to be 22, no?
No,
You want 23?
So, I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
And now I'm going to remember to vote. Any further conversation? All those in favor? Congratulations.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank
I
you for
hope
your
the harbor
patience.
commission is easier than this was.
Any interest in being on the planning board?
Seriously.
So now-
Your reappointment is contingent upon getting the harbor management plan done.
Yes, we look forward to that.
And I'm sorry, this was so convoluted, but you can see why. It got kind of complicated. for
It is a
us.
good group.
You will. And you will enjoy yourself. It is a nice group. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for waiting tonight, too. So, we're going to move on to appointments and resignations, 8B, Historical Cemeteries.
Thank you so much.
Cemeteries Commission, 5-member board, 3-year terms, 1 vacancy, 1 unexpired term to 4/15/2022. And we have Thomas Snell of 245 King Road requesting reappointment. We have documentation. Is Mr. Snell here? No.
He's requesting appointment, not reappointment.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was appointment.
So they get tabled, or?
Yeah, so we would normally not make the appointment tonight anyway, so we'll look at this next week, and if we can, the next meeting, and if we can try to get him to attend, that would be great. Everybody okay with that, moving it to next meeting? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And then we're going to move on to acknowledgement of the resignation of Jason Claremont, and that is 8C. Let me find that one.
Email? You want?
Oh, here, I have it sideways. So, and then I have, this is where my other question comes in for the solicitor after we go through this. Hi all, this is for Mr. Claremont. After a bit of thought, I feel my lack of availability during my work survey season, which extends 9 to 10 months these days, is a disservice to the commission and is probably best if I step down from the Harbor Commission Aquaculture and coastal access are very much of interest to me, so I hope to stay as engaged as possible. Perhaps if my schedule allows more frequent attendance in the future, I could seek an appointment should a vacancy become available. It's been a pleasure working with you all, and thank you for the great work you do. The latest version of the harbor management plan, as well as some other HMPs, I'm not sure what that means, but
Harbor management plans.
oh, harbor management plans, thank you. From nearby communities are in a folder on my Google Drive, which can be accessed here, and he gives the address for that. I'm not going to read that whole thing. Anyone with this link can simply download the files to their computer. I highly suggest someone taking the lead on this so that a current member of the Harbor Commission is in possession of the latest version of the HMP. Bruce Endor-Leona, please let me know what needs to be done officially to ensure my seat is able to be filled. Regards, Jason, we're doing that. So my question on this, we have a document of a town commission on a private shared drive. Is that of concern from an open meetings perspective or from a public records perspective?
He's telling us to get it, so we have to retrieve it.
Right. But going forward, is that of concern?
I mean,
No?
he was on the board, he was validly on the board, we like keeping notes of your own.
Okay.
We like keeping notes of your own meetings, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a draft.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We all tend to do that.
But I know anything that I'm doing, I would run through Joan. So I may have my
I'll
copy,
talk
but I'm
to-
going to share.
I'll talk to Bruce Cox to ensure that they pick it up.
Yeah, we just have to get that document.
Do we need to vote to accept his resignation?
We can. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept Jason Claremont's,
Second, Bill?
with
Effective,
regrets.
With regret, sorry.
effective September 21st, 2021, second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Back to you. We're on 9A.
EDC Chair Renee Jones. Renee, I know you were here. Are you still awake? Come on. Share info on upcoming Business Pulse Week sponsored by Connect, Greater Newport, and Newport Chamber of Commerce.
Okay, I'm just going to start with that one. People may remember, but in 2019, there was a business walk, and a number of those of us from the EDC and some members of council literally went and visited businesses and talked to them, and then came back and did some kind of reporting on that. This year, because of COVID, they're going to do a virtual business walk. I think, Joan, were you able to get? Okay, you should have the information. Thank you for doing that on such short notice. I really appreciated that. So you should have something that says 2021 Business Pulse Week, and that has all the information on it. The person that's running this is,
Excuse me, I passed out a new one, because
Yes,
that
it's
one
right- it's
only,
here somewhere.
it only had the odd number pages instead of
oh,
the
did
even.
I do that?
No. So I passed it out, it's on the
You know
counter
me
at
and
the beginning of the
computers.
meeting.
Yeah, I saw it here somewhere.
So what they're doing, Isabel Marsh, who is the business outreach liaison between the Greater Chamber of Commerce, Newport Chamber of Commerce, and Connect Greater Newport, is actually coordinating this. So I don't have to be an intermediary. If you're interested in being a volunteer to do the phone calls to the businesses, you can do that by contacting her directly, and then she will set you up with the next steps, which are a training, and then setting you up with who to contact. The EDC is trying to reach out to some businesses that we know, like starting off right away with the 4 businesses that are new to town, so we could find out what the process was like for them to go through and get started. And so we're doing that part as well, and I will be passing along that information to Isabel Marsh. So I have no idea who's going to get connected with whom, but that's the person to get in contact with, and the information is there. I think it's an interesting process and project to do, because it gives you a direct contact with a business, and with all that's been going on with COVID, it's really critical to find out what they're feeling and how they're doing these days. So I wanted to pass along that information to you, and that was number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next one is
Ah.
discussion
Yes.
possible vote on request for funding.
Yeah, the next one is, oops, yep. Wait a second, I had something I was supposed to give you also. Here it is. The next one is because I am running out of money.
Which you had very little to begin with.
Right, so I'll put it very directly. We had a $500 budget at the start of the year. 50 of that was deducted to pay for our virtual phone processes, so we were down to $450. We did add 2 more display cases back there, which I am hoping will get filled up as I start passing information along, because what was happening was the other ones were overflowing, so we started to expand, and now we're just waiting for them to fill up. So that left us with, I have my money here.
351.
Not much.
351, yeah.
Not much. And then what we've done and what we want to do is we were able to reach out to Dave Robert. Every year, he sends out a mailing to all the businesses in town for to have them review their tangible assets. So we already know that it goes to a very directed group of people. And we thought that what we could do is help by dovetailing our cards with the direct mailing from Dave Roberts, get our cards out to the businesses, because what we're desperately trying to do is establish an email database. If anything proves how much we need this, it has been COVID. We had a website where we were able to put up all the information we could get. You know, I mean, Dave Robert and I were updating that as soon as we got something new. The problem is, do people know to go to the website? And in fact, you know, when we had the restaurant revitalization portion, I actually literally, since there are only about 40 restaurants, literally called or texted everyone. But you can't do that for 600 businesses. This is not only our issue, this is an issue from the state as well. The state is also trying to get a database because for some reason or another, people don't ask for email addresses when people are going for licensing and people are going for whatever they need to go for. We've talked about that before. Thank you, Joan. I see you writing that down. That was one of the issues we talked about with the LEAN program. And I know we brought it up a number of times so that as businesses come in or anytime somebody asks for some kind of license, right on the form should be some kind of slot that says email address, business email address, or we will contact, even if it's a personal one, that we have to be able to use that so that we can get in touch with people if we need to. I mean, hopefully we won't have to deal with another COVID episode, but in the meantime, these are the cards that we've made. They have stamps on them because I usually give them out to people with stamps. So that
Which
hopefully.
is also part
Yeah,
of
you can keep it, I don't want to waste the stamp.
Yeah, which is also. Say the stamp. Say the stamp.
Yeah, say the stamp, I
I've
just want to
seen
look
them.
at
Well,
it.
yeah, you've seen them, but this is what they look like. We send them out with stamps because we get a better response. We hopefully get a better response if we actually stamp it. So the envelopes, the letters would go, these would go right in the envelope that Dave Robert is sending out with a stamp. This is what we hand out to businesses if it's somebody new. So that's why I need additional funds.
About how much?
Renee?
Oops, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Well, if I use all my money, I'm minus $60. But if you wanted to pay for, the letters, the printing of the 600 and the stamps for that, it would be $411.22.
So if we give you 500 more,
That would definitely cover it.
and I believe we could take it out of council contingency.
Yep.
Because we do have the monies in there for things like this. So,
I make a motion that we provide the Economic Development Commission $500 from council contingency to add to their budget and also to use for the printing and postage for the business mailing.
Second?
And that will go out in December with Dave Roberts.
do I
Dave
have a second?
Robert.
Yep, second?
So motion been made and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, you Rich?
So Renee, while you're gonna run out of money again, as you come up with new programs, don't hesitate to come back to.
Okay, 'cause
As long as
if
you
it's-
can explain to
Yeah,
council what it is you're doing.
Right.
I'm sure they'll be receptive.
Right, I think, go ahead.
I just want to tell you, you're doing a very good job.
We're
Thank you.
we're trying our best, you know.
Thank you, and I hope it helped when you came and talked to us, and I'd like to do that again, get us all together.
You know
again.
what, I just was going through all my papers and thinking that that would be a really good thing to do again. Also because I've never really had a chance to talk to the building inspector, he's new, and, you know, that would be a good thing to sort of just get us all together again and chat about that. So yes, I'd be happy to do that.
You might want to put him on one of your agendas.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Michael's your liaison.
Yeah,
so
no,
whenever-
he-
Yep,
This is all Mike's fault.
it's all my fault.
At some point, I thought that was very productive.
Yeah, I think
and
it was really helpful. I think it just, it sort of breaks down the silos that we have, so.
Thank you, Renee. You're
Okay,
doing
thank
a
you
great
very
job.
much. Take care.
Administrator Cotta, Police Chief Jones, approval of budget transfers for FY '21, transfer $19,166.63 from litigation account 1050-7159 to solicitor account 1050-7154. And this is from FY '21.
So,
And transfer,
no, we do one at a time, or?
oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
So the solicitor actually does have money. Mike just explained to me how this was created, because I didn't know this till just now. There is $30,000 under the solicitor budget for planning. I've been putting this entire bill under the solicitor.
Oh,
So this is just, at the end of the year, that account, the solicitor account is red, but there's money either in litigation or the planning. So I just took it out of the litigation account to make it so it's not red anymore. So it's not like he's billing us any more money.
but the planning
So
account probably is.
So I will, yeah, it's full. So I will talk to Mary Lou about how we do those billings.
Okay.
And it will take an appropriate amount every month out to go against the planning amount, so
Oh,
that
but
this
we
doesn't
still
happen
need to
again.
do this, yeah.
No, we do need to do the transfer, because Denise as our auditors go through the books, these were the only two accounts that we're looking at that were red, that really
Our
should have been
planning
rectified.
account looks really
This is
good.
planning
It does.
for 101. I'm writing this down.
So I'd like to entertain a motion.
I so move to transfer, oh, no.
Yes.
Okay,
19,000.
transfer $19,166.63 from litigation to the solicitor's account.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion made in second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? The next item is transfer $4,273.94 from personnel service account 3330-5101 to overtime account 3330-5104.
So
I just
again,
noticed the police chief's here. He's been hiding.
he's been chuckling up back there.
Back there talking to Bruce.
Go ahead.
So, very similar issue. The overtime account obviously is over because of COVID. We've been managing quite a bit throughout the year, but this was on the last payroll. All we're gonna do is just take out of salaries anyhow, out of personal services. So, and the money is in the account to do that. And I gave you the backup for both of those to show the money's there. And this will clean up the books for the auditor and for Denise.
Any questions from the council? Like to entertain a motion?
No, I'll make a motion to transfer $4,273.94 from personal services account 3330-5101 to the overtime account 3330-5104, which is in the police department.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion?
Who's
All
second?
Oh, did someone second?
Bill.
Yeah, I
Bill
thought
second.
somebody raised their
Bill
hand.
Second?
Mel. Well, I looked over, there was this. Motion been made and second. All those in favor? Councilor deMedeiros, we already did 9D and E. Councilor deMedeiros, reschedule meeting from October 4th. To October 4th regarding allocation of casino revenue operative in Code of Ordinance, section 2-107. We had to cancel the meeting due, I was ill, and I would like to reschedule it to next Monday.
I move that we reschedule the casino gaming revenue meeting that was to be held on September 20th and reschedule it to October 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. in Town Hall.
I'll second.
Motion been made in second. All those in favor? And I'll notify it.
So as part of that, I know that you've been asking for updates on where we are financially, whether it's gaming, American Recovery monies, CARES monies. I've given you a memo that's about 3 pages and a 2-page spreadsheet that will kind of outline the direction that I see that we need to go in. this is not carved in stone. Obviously, the council has to weigh in, we have to take your input on all that. It somewhat goes through what we did with the school department as it relates to gaming. So it's information for you to have and read as you go through and digest in preparation of next week. It's a,
The spreadsheet?
we'll get you another one. There was some right over there for, we'll get Joe and,
Jay was stealing all of them too.
he was.
Yeah, I think Jay actually
Well,
took
I
mine.
stole them all and gave them all away because I don't have one.
Can I have one?
So it's a 3-page document that says,
Yes.
and there's a 3-page document like this that kind of is a narrative as well. That's, it says the draft funding proposal in the upper right corner.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
Okay. So that's just a summary of what these different funding sources are, some of the restrictions that fall within them, and some of the potential intended uses. And then it's a pretty long capital outlay as to where I see that we could actually utilize some of these. And again, it's information for you to just review and contemplate as you're making your own personal deliberations. I'm not trying to drive the bus here, but somebody need to put something on paper so that we could at least start the discussion. So,
Yeah, and I have some concerns about some of these, but we'll discuss.
no, and I fully expect that we're gonna have discussions about them, but we need to start somewhere, so.
All right.
And then also, I passed out, and I don't know if you have this, the survey, the gaming funding survey, I did pass that out. It's a fairly, complex, complete,
It's thick, so I'll have to look.
no, there's a lot of different questions and diagrams, and there is a spreadsheet in there that outlines where the numbers actually come from. So that's the 2 documents I'm giving you for food for thought.
How much longer are we leaving that up?
Excuse me?
How much longer are we gonna leave that questionnaire?
I'll leave it up for as long as you want. I'll take another, I'll add another packet of updated.
Needs to stay up until we make some decisions.
No, I agree. The longer it stays up, the better off we are. So it's, and I'll make note of it for anybody to go to our website. There is and it's on just about every social media site that we have. There's a public survey about how to use the potential gaming monies.
So, Chris, and I know you have it in the memo, but just to be clear, the ARPA NEU money
Yep.
is over how many years?
2 years.
2 years.
We received the first installment in July at 816,000, I believe it was. And we'll get another like increment next July, or we hope next July as well. And then on the county funding, it's very similar. We have not received that money as of yet. It's still going through some issues at the state office. But that should be 1.5 million in FY '22, and again, another 1.5 million in FY '22.
And-
23, I meant.
And the CARES Act was one time.
The CARES Act actually came in a little while ago, and there was a process on how we had to apply for that. We had to utilize all of our public safety expenditures to justify that. And the rationale that the state used to carve out how much we got was based on motor vehicle taxes. I don't know how they linked the two, but that's how they did it. So, but there are very stringent restrictions on how to use the CARES Act. That's why when you look at the spreadsheet, you'll find that there are issues strictly related to public safety.
And pretty much the same goes for both ARPA pots, that there are restrictions and some can be used for revenue loss, must be used for revenue loss.
So the reason why they break it, there are different buckets of money within the ARPA monies. The category of lost revenue is the most simplistic method to utilize. You have to justify what you have for lost revenue. We have $3.2 million that's justified as lost revenue. But the pandemic office has been giving me a little bit of a hard time about justifying half of that. While the NEU monies can all be used, it's $1.6 million, can be used for lost revenue. There's no restriction on the lost revenue portion as long as it's used for a governmental purpose. So in other words, as we deferred things because of COVID, we took things out of the budget because of COVID, we can now reinstate those, and it's done as a grant. It doesn't have to go back for appropriation purposes through the FDR process. It comes in as federal grant monies. So the issue is when we get to the county disbursements, the pandemic office is telling me there is no formula for lost revenue. Well, all of our senator and other federal delegation disagree. So they're getting a formal opinion from the pandemic office in DC. They believe and they're fully firm in that all of our lost revenues can be used. So the reason why that's important is because if you can utilize 3.2 million in total we're getting 4.7 million for the town side. If 3.2 million can be used for general governmental purposes, and it's basically a net out of the 4.7, then the other categories are very, very specific on how to utilize them. It's sewer and water projects, it's broadband, which does have some cybersecurity in it, and it's COVID-related pandemic issues. And they're very specific on how you use those. And when you get to the point where the council has formulated how they want to utilize those funds in those categories, they require that we go out for, and we're going to do this anyhow, we're going to go out to the public and the Tiverton constituents and put out, again, maybe another survey, maybe a public hearing. We will have to demonstrate to the federal government that we actually sought public opinion on how to utilize those things that don't fit into these buckets. And they should have some say in it. At the end of the day, it's still going to be the council's decision, but we need to demonstrate that we are actually following the guidance and rules that the feds put out there.
So at some point, does it make sense to do a survey? I think we talked about this, similar to what we've done.
We
for the
will.
casino.
We'll start drafting something together and we'll work our way through it.
Now, the gaming money.
Yep. So, do you have to read?
I get it.
All
Never
right.
mind.
So
I get it.
and when you
It's
get,
hard to follow, but I get it.
it is, and then when you get to the opera money, there's another piece you have to really consider as you go through the listing, because we're only getting half of each of those categories each year.
Right.
We have to kind of then prioritize those items within those items to say, okay, what do we really want to fund this year? And I've kind of broken them out into whether it might be NEU money or county money, but we're going to have to prioritize every one of those as well.
So we're having a special meeting for the gaming.
Yes, we are, but I wanted to give you kind of a full flavor.
Should we have a special meeting for the?
We're going to have to. We will have to. So that's why I'm saying that there's a lot of information here, and it's, like I said, I don't, while I am driving the bus right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the road we're going to go
No,
down.
but this is good. This is
Right, it gives you kind of a flavor as to how this is all gonna work. It is a lot of money, and just, I wanna be clear, that the schools did get another $1.7 million on top of this, so it's not like it's all came to us. But we did absorb the lion's share of all the losses.
And I don't know if the rest of the council, Chris and I and Mike had a meeting with the school committee chairman and the superintendent.
It was a very good meeting.
It was a very good meeting. It was very productive. He gave us a list of his needs. We actually said, well, why don't you spend more? Because he was being a little bit too conservative. And if you notice here, it says $2 million for them. That was right around the amount, and he'll explain why.
Yep.
But we're trying to make it cost efficient. So instead of doing one bathroom at one school, you get a contractor in there to do several bathrooms in one school, because it's cheaper that way. But he wasn't aware that the monies were there for all of this.
Right.
So, but he will speak to you about this, and of course, we'll have a vote on it. But he has a list, and it was a very, very good meeting.
No, they were very receptive to what we were doing.
So, and that was just a prelude to this, so we could just kind of listen to what they had to say, and would make our meeting a little shorter by explaining to them the money we thought was available. So, all right, thank you, Chris, very good. I asked him for this, and this is very good. Thank you. Joan Chabot, update on Tiverton Code of Ordinance Supplement 12.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to give a brief update. For the Code of Ordinances, we have Supplement 12, given authorization to proceed with publishing Supplement 12. That will include most recent ordinance changes, as well as the last two charter changes, so that the charter is up to date. It'll be up to date in Unicode and Clerk base. So we expect the Supplement 12 to be published and shipped out around the end of October. So, good news there.
Very good news.
So,
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to go into closed.
Before you do that, you want to amend
What?
Oh, yeah, you have to add, you want to
Yes.
add that item.
Yeah, well, that's what I was,
No.
No, you want a motion to go to executive session, but before we do that, we want to amend the
oh,
executive
you
session.
want me to amend it before I do that? I was gonna do it after. Okay, so I want to amend the closed executive session, and Mike will tell you.
All right, so the motion would
Legal
be
way to do
to
this.
amend the executive session agenda to add for discussion purposes only pursuant to 42466B, potential litigation under 42465A2 related to Four Corners Properties LLC.
And this is for discussion only, and you'll find out why we.
An update on potential litigation, yes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
I mean, yes, Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
And go into executive session. Oh, now.
Now you may.
Now I'm going into executive session. Council President deMedeiros, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1, personnel job performance annual evaluation for Town Administrator Christopher Cotta, notice
And
and.
the thing that we just added,
And.
pursuant to 42465A2 for discussion potential litigation regarding Four Corners Properties LLC.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Edwards?
Oh, we need a motion first. 5-minute break. Motion and a second.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought we did.
I thought we did.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So moved.
Second?
Motion been made in second. Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
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 Yes.